Hello, Sanjay. Hi, Sanjay. You there?
Anissa, let us start in minutes time. Mrigank is already there as a presenter.
Sanjay, I just wanted to check if I share my screen and yesterday what we were trying to check about the notes. If just wanted to
Please do.
You're able to see the slide, or are you able to see
Yes.
the notes?
No.
Okay, cool. Great. Let me just put on my video and see once.
Yeah.
Clear?
Right. You are visible. Sound is clear. PPT along with the notes is visible. Now, yeah, it is fine now.
No. Now I have just shared my notes as well. I mean, I hope it's not seen.
No, not visible.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay,
So
then.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yeah. Now you can stop sharing.
Okay.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So this is the backdrop we are going to use in today's event.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to use. My name is Anisha. I'm the
Hi,
host.
Anisha.
I would request all of you to please put yourself in mute. We are going to start very soon.
Anissa, should I start?
Is this fine, Sanjay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Let me just start. Start means I'm clicking on the start webinar button. Let's wait for see how many people are turning out. Then we'll start. You can start. Okay. You can check.
You'll have to tell me.
Yeah.
Just tell me and I'll start.
Right. Anis, I think we should start. People will be joining one by one. They
All
are
right,
in
I'll
queue.
start.
Right.
I'll start with a reverse countdown of 5 in my head. Okay.
Please.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Accent Infomedia, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you for joining us this afternoon for the Enterprise IT World Data Center Summit and Awards 2021. This virtual platform will play host to a confluence of senior information technology executives to discuss the growth and future of data centers in India. I'm your host, Anisha Nair Thapat. Could any of us have survived the last year and a half without the internet or electricity? Our lives moved online, with shopping online, work from home, and online classrooms. In the post pandemic new normal, data centers have become a basic necessity, along with water, electricity, gas, and telecom. Increased cloud adoption, expansion of access to internet related services aided by nationwide lockdowns, data explosion, and the growth of IoT are fueling the surge in data centers. According to JLL, India's data center sector will require $3.7 billion in investments over the next 3 years to meet the industry's requirements for 6 million square feet greenfield development. Is the infrastructure in terms of land, power, and water forthcoming to support the growth of data centers? Will investments be forthcoming for this capital intensive sector? Do we have specialized manpower with sophisticated skills in specialized areas such as power, HVAC, security, network, and more? These are some of the issues that we will be discussing during the day today. We would like to thank our sponsors, Dell Technologies, Hitachi, TeamViewer, Control S, Adani Connect, and WebWorks. Now, in keeping with our tradition to seek divine blessings at the start of the event, we would like to begin with the Ganesh Vandana. This set of holy mantras are chanted to invoke the blessing of Lord Ganesh for the auspicious start of the summit, and we also pray for the souls of those who have departed fighting the coronavirus. go with Lord Ganesha's blessings. Let's begin. A small house announcement. Please keep yourself on mute until I request you to speak. And I would also request all our speakers to please stick to the time allotted to them. And request to all the delegates to chip in with your questions. Please use the chat box for any comments or suggestions that you have. But if you have any specific question, please type it in the Q&A box and type in the question when it comes to your mind. Don't wait till the end of the session. We will be taking our questions towards the end, but please send us your questions with your name and your organization the moment it comes to you in your head. And please do address it to the speaker as well. That will be great. That will solve many issues for us. Now, I would like to request Sanjay Mohapatra, editor, Enterprise IT World, to please welcome all delegates and speakers to the Enterprise IT World Data Center Summit and Awards 2021. Sanjay, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Thanks, Anisa, for a wonderful introduction to this event. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and warm welcome to the Enterprise IT World DC Summit and Awards 2021 presented by Dell Technologies and Hitachi. Thank you very much for joining in. Hope all are safe and healthy. Today's situation is pretty scary from both personal and professional point of view. On economy, our economy is becoming, at the same time, our economy is becoming a knowledge-based digital economy. Every organization is becoming digital organization. So the core of the digital economy is data, and therefore data centers are catalysts to leapfrog to our digital goal that we have set. Of course, the government of India has strong willingness to make India a hub of data centers. But due to COVID-19, the necessity of having DCs or data center parks have become really, really urgent. And there is push from all these sectors, including government and private sector, to make the data center parks possible and enhance the capacity. If I can go to some data points, today India's data center footprint is assessed at 11 million square feet. It is probably going to be 30 million square feet by 2030. And could cross even 100 million by 2060, containing 5,000 edge data centers nationwide. As per research, Indian data center market is expected to have a value of roughly 4 billion USD by 2024. My understanding is that there is going to be a great evolution in the data center industry with 5G coming in, and in the growth of applications around AI, ML, big data analytics, digital India, software-defined architecture, cybersecurity, and focus on sustainability and green technologies. So in order to understand the trend, we have created this event, which is known as Data Center Events and Awards 2021. This event would see views of the industry, leaders, veterans, including the senior CIOs, DC leaders, DC solution providers. There are views which will be agreeing with each other. There are views which will be opposing with each other. But it is going to be a great knowledge sharing with you, with me, and with everybody attending this session. Of course, this event is going to be very live. We have already made it live on YouTube. You can access the entire session in our CIOTV.live handle. LinkedIn handle, of course, CIOTV.live is our URL where we post CIO interviews and enterprise videos. Besides, we are giving away the CIOs and IT leaders accolades and awards for their excellence and innovation that they might have done during this past years. Either they have done innovation in outsourced data centers or in their captive data centers. And these awards have been created, and the results are out today. Of course, will be out today in the evening based on the nominations and declaration of all the CIOs, those who have participated. We have got massive response, around 230 DC excellent leaders had nominated themselves, but we have picked up only 100 of them. So before I conclude, let me just touch upon the agenda of the event. As I was saying, that this is going to be a very good event and thought-provoking and argumentative also. Agenda. We'll start with Mrigank Mishra, who is Senior Associate Vice President, Hitachi Systems, Hitachi System Micro Clinic, will give a presentation keynote on growth opportunity of DC, will be followed by Sanjay Bhutani, with Senior Vice President Adani Connects. He will give presentation on future technologies and how the leaders are adopting those technologies. We have then Krunal Patel, Director Team Viewer, who will talk about managed services and remote works. And the crux and the beauty of this event lies in our panel discussion, which is being moderated by Mr. B.S. Rao, Vice President, Marketing, Controllers, Data Centers, and senior IT leaders and CXOs are, of course, panelists, Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CTO, Katriwala, Securities India, Mr. Punis Namba, CTO, Sahi Exports, Mr. Anil Porter, AVP IT and CIO Interglobe Technologies, and we have got Piyush Gupta, also Associate Vice President, Adani Connects. Anisa has already mentioned about some house rules. You can ask your questions anytime, but depending on the availability, the leaders will answer, especially if you are asking questions during the panel discussion. Of course, that will be addressed then and there. So with this, I must thank everyone once again for joining in. Don't forget to take part in Lucky Draw. We also have a poll where we want to understand the sentiments of the market or the leaders as to what they are thinking about the entire ecosystem of the data center, and some other questions. So thank you very much and enjoy the evening. Anisa, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay. That's quite an encouraging start for everyone. So much to look forward to. Now, let's start with the first keynote address. Please welcome Mr. Mrigank Mishra, Senior Associate Vice President, Hitachi Systems Micro Clinic. He will be speaking about the growth opportunity of data centers in India. Mr. Mishra is a seasoned sales and marketing professional with 15 years of experience in verticals like retail, telecom, and IT. He has been a part of key marketing and sales initiatives for companies like the Future Group, Vodafone, and Tata Communications. At Hitachi Systems Micro Clinic, Mrigank is associated with the dynamics of core IT infrastructure spanning across data centers, cybersecurity, cloud, and IT managed services in Hyderabad. So please welcome Mr. Mishra.
Thank you, Anisha. It's a pleasure to be a part of this session. And I must say, before I start presenting my screen, I must say your Vandana was superb. It helped me show off some of the butterflies which were in my stomach. Thank you so much for that, Anisha.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. You can start with your
I hope you can see my screen.
We see your screen, but we don't see your, yes, now we see your presentation. You can go.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all my dear friends, colleagues, and senior leaders from the industry. My name is Mrigank Mishra, and I am a senior AVP with Hitachi Systems Micro Clinic. Welcome to the Enterprise IT World Data Center Summit 2021. As much as I want to have this conversation physically and share a smile with all of you, I thought what's better to look at a slide which brings a little smile, and none other than my favorite character, corporate comic character, Dilbert. I'll take about a couple of seconds for you to go through that. Well, that was classic Dilbert. So before I begin, I'll be covering two segments, which is the data center journey and a brief about who's Hitachi Systems Micro Clinic and our association with Dell Technologies. Let us take a pause to reflect back in early 1940s when the first DCs were launched. Now, though I wasn't there, but I was reading about it and realized how the bubble burst from those robust elephant-sized architecture with primary focus on having a great deal of power, especially to cool down those complex machines, which were difficult to operate and maintain. Cut to today's stage, the data centers have become lean, sophisticated, high-end. Now, this has happened because organizations required high-speed internet, non-stop operations to deploy systems, applications, and highly reliable infrastructure, where organizations could settle their DCs. Welcome to the world of data centers. Now, what transformed, right? I was reflecting back, I said, what transformed the data centers? Now, I have identified few areas which were instrumental in making the DCs as they are today. These are the four parameters which I looked at in terms of standardization and consolidation, virtualization, automation, and security. Let's quickly look at each of these. Consolidation, of course, refers to technologies and strategies that allow for more efficient IT infrastructure. In short, consolidating multiple data centers or just making a single large data center to run more effectively on fewer resources. Virtualization, we all are aware, I'm sure more than 95% of today's workload have moved to a virtualized infrastructure. It enables lowers capitals and operational expenses and reduces a significant amount of energy consumption. Automation, this has been a pivotal aspect of data centers because mundane tasks which are got automated, for example, provisioning, configuration, patching, release management, thereby allowing data centers to increase their agility and operational efficiency. Finally, security. The protection of virtual systems is integrated with existing security of physical infrastructure. Now, I'll be covering a little bit of security in more detail in my subsequent slides. Now, hence, more and more organizations started building or outsourcing their data centers. Now, why did that happen, right? So I have been selling and consulting with organizations on how they strategize their data centers. And here are some of the important aspects which I collated by talking to a few leaders in the industry. And I also discussed with them that how they are looking at the role of data centers today. And this aims, and I hope this aims to set a premise for our session today. Now, these are the five key elements. You can call them the ask, you can call them the CIO's outlook, you can call them the where the journey is headed. Hybrid data centers, co-location, 5G and edge devices, security, sustainability, and carbon footprint. These are the five key questions, key areas which has been worked upon. Hybrid data center, basically a combination of on-prem, public, and private cloud infrastructure to meet the changing dynamics of business needs. It's pretty much explainable. Let's look at co-location in a little deeper part, right? Co-location has been a major point of discussion across business and IT teams, right? To be or not to be. It's always a tug of war, right? Let me give you an example before I go in deeper into it. I was talking to one of the customers who had about 80 racks in their in-house premises, right? And they were looking at adding 20 more racks. Now, the biggest question was, do we look at expanding in-house or do we look at co-locating in a third party? Now, there's always, as I said, there's a tug of war between business and IT team. One of the gentlemen in the technical team said, and by the way, just to premise that to that is the organization was a very complex domain, looking at very high-end VLSI kind of very large scale intricate circuits, etc. Now the technical team said that I want to be near to my servers, right? In case of something goes wrong, I would like to hop, skip, and jump and see what went wrong rather than just traveling to a particular center. Now, these are some of the aspects which has always been a tug of war between organizations deciding whether to co-locate in-house or whether to build a data center in-house or co-locate it outside, right? There's always a pros and cons, but there's a silver lining, right? So what organizations have started doing today is looking at non-critical internal applications like HRMS, outsourcing that to a third party, while maintaining your business and mission critical applications and infrastructure in-house. Now, these are some of the ways that has been discussed today in order to identify and strategize the co-location strategy. One more very interesting thing that is happening is a lot of organizations are looking at high-end technology which require lower latency, right? And some of these solutions and services were always looked at being hosted at a public cloud kind of environment. Now, what is happening is that the public clouds also identified that there's a challenge, there's a loophole, because these complex technologies require lower latency, right? There are geographically spread users who need to be very clearly able to access such kind of technologies. And that's why public cloud service providers are now looking at co-locating those services at a third-party data center, which is a very big boon. And I'm sure you're going to see a much more such initiatives coming forward. There are a couple of names we call outposts from some of the cloud service provider, which are clearly targeting such strategies. Now, this is basically, in order to cater to workloads, which is requiring low latency, data processing, migration, etc., thereby increasing demands of data centers. 5G and edge devices with the burst of IoT round the corner requires high-speed connectivity and seamless user experience. 5G or edge devices will generate enormous amount of data, right? And we are all aware of that. And this data needs high-end complex architecture to process, to analyze, to communicate, to be able to make sense of this data, right? In that case, and at the same time, looking at addressing those users who are going to be the end users for such services. In order to that, data center infra, which can cater to such magnus amount of data, analytics, storage, and much more, it is important that they need to cater to respectively geographically located devices, which means a lot of smaller data centers to be established, right? We are now looking at the internet outbreak, which is going across from...
Margan, sorry to interrupt. I guess you might not want these notes to be visible here.
Okay.
You can just enlarge the screen.
Right. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Cool, thank you. Is it clear?
Yes,
Perfectly
Megan,
fine
it is
now.
coming.
Right. I didn't know that. Now, so I was talking about the tier one, the data center, the internet usage moving from tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3 cities. And that's why the smaller data centers needs to be catering to those kind of locations, right? And that is which is the growth of data centers going to come in very soon. We've just heard about the billions of square feet that the data centers are already established, about 11 million square feet and about 13 and 100 million square feet. This is where the bubble is going to burst. The paradigm is going to shift in these angles. Finally, before in the previous slide, I did mention about the security, right? This is something which nobody can turn a blind eye, right? Security has been one of the most important aspects in the last 4-5 years. Organizations have started creating center of excellence in terms of identifying security. So why should data centers be any far away, right? We have been talking about all this while protecting vulnerabilities from north-south traffic, whether it's in a data center or in-house or a third party, right? Now, what today data centers are upgrading themselves by combining solutions as a part of their offering, wherein the security is not limited to north and south. It is going beyond. It is going to east and west. Now, how does that work? Now you have a big server farm in the data center, right? So there's multiple servers, application server, database server, etc. Now these application servers or any kind of servers are talking to multiple other servers, right? On hindsight, organizations are unable to see that there is a server which need not be having an access to any other server and vice versa. And that is, my friends, the biggest loophole which the target hackers attack, right? That is where there are solutions which enable protecting this east and west traffic and not just looking at north-south traffic. What is coming in, what is going out is something which is very well established. We know how to do that. But east-west traffic is going to be the most important aspect in protecting these large data centers. And I know for sure there are multiple data centers in India who've already embraced these technologies and now are a part of their offerings to cater to their respective potential customers. Finally, sustainability and carbon footprint. You will be amazed to know data centers today emit about 200 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, which probably amounts to about 2 to 3% of global energy consumption, right? Now that is the biggest question today, because data centers in a way are also contributing to this particular carbon footprint. That is why data centers are moving toward greener DCs, right? A greener data center. That's the biggest ask. And most of the leaders and organizations are looking at how do they make their data centers more energy efficient. There are various ways which have been in the talk of the town. For example, dark DCs, we are looking at liquid cooling system, two-phase power, etc. Dark DCs is something wherein there are organizations who have their server farms in data centers. However, they don't require any manual intervention on a day-to-day basis to monitor that particular thing, which allows the data center to reduce the power consumption by switching off the lights in that particular area, right? That's a significant way of looking at it. That's a smaller thing, but a smaller step towards the betterment of things. Similarly, liquid cooling systems. Traditionally, the data centers used to have row and rack-based cooling, right? Looking at each server part, looking at cold and hot air containment, etc. But then comes the liquid cooling system, wherein there are certain high-end technological plates which are placed next to the GPUs or the servers, which helps in reduction of those heat, right? Now, these are capex intensive. However, the step has been already taken, and as this whole energy efficient saving solutions are coming to picture, we as a team need to look at how do we embrace that, how do we optimize it so that they are more affordable and hence contributing towards the sustainability and carbon footprint, right? Now, I hope you've got an idea in terms of how this data center evolution is happening, what are the challenges some of the customers and organizations are facing. Let us look at something more promising, which Sanjay also covered. Let us look at something more promising in terms of where are we headed. A quick glance, of course, India data center market will witness about 8 billion USD investment by 2026. Needless to say, this is what we are seeing in terms of the various advances that are happening in terms of 5G, edge devices, multiple data centers, multiple geographies to be catered. 5G networks will boost digital economy and hence high bandwidth networking infrastructure demand. This will directly look at of course, with the 5G options which are coming up, right, this will look at about 33 million USD for setting up such infrastructure, right? Edge services, as I mentioned, these will require complex infrastructure and products and technologies which will be looking at high bandwidth. It has to cater to high bandwidth, and hence the investments will go in depth. That is where the data centers will come into rescue, because there are solutions which will enable data centers to provide this as a service, right? What we have also seen is COVID-19, right? It came with a plethora opportunities. While I will not talk about the negative side, but I will talk about the opportunity side. I will talk about the good side, right? It has seen 30% increase in internet usage. Today, the fact that I'm sitting here and talking to you instead of a physical thing is a clear testimony in terms of what it has brought, right? So that has increased of internet usage, and hence the demand for data centers has gone up significantly in order to provide robust and scalable infrastructure to organizations. So that's short and sweet in terms of what I wanted to cover about my first segment in terms of data center journey. Now let us look at what Hitachi Systems is doing in this particular aspect. I will take you to a quick brief about who we are. Hitachi Limited was founded in 1910 by Namihei Odaira. We are a Japanese company. It's about 803 subsidiaries with about 3.5 lakh employees worldwide. We are a part of the systems and services business division of Hitachi Systems, right? Parenting to Hitachi Systems Japan. Now, where did the Hitachi System Microclinic came from? We were founded in 1990 as Microclinic India Private Limited, right? About a modest 150 crore kind of a turnover in 2014. That is when we strategically joined hands with Hitachi Systems Japan, right? And as a part of the acquisition, we were about 150 crores with about 200 odd employees. Cut to today, we are about a 1,500 crore turnover company with about 2,000 employees. Now, what did for us, as we talked about the transformation, what transformed for us, right? We started off taking smaller steps, adding more and more technologies, adding more and more services, employing a lot of skilled people, right? And these skilled people are the backbone for any such IT intensive organization, right? That helped us look at some offerings which we today cater to our customers. Let's quickly look at what are these offerings. So basically we have 4 pillars: cloud and data center solutions, we have cybersecurity division, we have a cloud practice, and finally, I take great pride in saying that our intellectual property in managed services. Now let's look at these 3 aspects: assessment services, implementation, and operation, right? While we are talking to an organization, while we are talking to a customer, it's very important to understand as is and to be, right? There's a big divide there. We don't believe in a transactional discussion with any customers. It has to be understanding what is the current pain area, where do you wish to go, and how do you want to sustain yourself, right? What is the growth going to look like in terms of your investment, which you're going to do today? That comes with our skilled professionals who sits with customer, assess each and every requirement, understand which is the right mix of products. How does that will phase out in the next 9 months or 1 year or 2 years? We look at a longer strategy in terms of identifying this. Again, it is backed up by a strong set of engineers who look at our implementation aspect. These are all certified engineers. We take great pride in saying that they've got the highest level of certifications done from these technology providers. And it is very important because that's the ask from organizations to have a person who's able to understand, who's able to identify and tell that this is how it has to be done, this is how it has not to be done, right? And finally, the most important thing, while you have done this, while you have designed, implemented, and set it up, who does the management? Because we've got this special set of skill provided as a part of our operational services, we are able to look at how do we manage these data centers, how do we manage these deployments in terms of day-to-day activity, day-to-day review, day-to-day proactive measures to identify any loopholes. Secondly, cybersecurity. Yes, of course, I can go on it on a whole day. This is one of my favorite subjects. But when I say end-to-end, at the OSI layer, from layer 3 to layer 7, we do everything under the sun, right? From a basic network perimeter level going up to an application layer. That's something which we all know, which we all have deployed. But what we are doing next is looking at where are the security loopholes coming? How are these hackers? We cannot deny the fact there's no silver bullet to security. Hackers will always be 2 steps ahead of us. But what we are trying to look at is how do we counter that, right? No organization can say that I've invested enough and I'm secure, right? That is where we go ahead and tell them about the latest technologies which are coming in the market, like deception technology. We are looking at first layer of defense in terms of deploying DDI, DHCP, and DNS and IPAM kind of infrastructure for organizations to understand how this whole security can fan out. While you have all the respective elements, you have endpoint, you've got data privacy, you've got data security, you've got application level security, but there's still that one loophole. We are able to see that loophole very clearly. We are able to identify, analyze, and say that this is how it might phase out. This is how it might look at disrupting some of the set architecture. Finally, as I mentioned, this is one of our, in a bird's eye view, this is what we do in terms of end-to-end IT infrastructure management. We take great pride in doing this. We have got about 100-member team sitting out of our Delhi office who are 24/7 available, looking at enterprise infra monitoring, end user management, storage, backup servers, and various other things that we, as a part of our managed services, we do. If you can see the bottom layer, we do from asset management to fault management to looking at various on-site and hybrid support. That's how we have developed ourselves to go ahead and cater. And we have about 700 odd customers pan-India with whom we successfully have been working with them for the last close to about 5 years in terms of deploying our services, giving them the right visibility in terms of their architecture, giving them the visibility, proactive visibility in terms of how they should look at and what changes needs to be done. So that's a part of our managed services. Well, I think that's where I would like to jump to the most important aspect. We take great pride in talking about our association with Dell Technologies. We've been since last 9 years, we've been working with Dell. I take great pride in saying we are the titanium partner for Dell Technologies. We are also the co-deployment partner in terms of their server, storage, various other solutions like hyperconverged infrastructure using VxRail, PowerEdge servers, etc., etc. Let me tell you what we have done with one of the customers, and I would like to take this case study. There's a premier logistics company in India. Now, what was the challenge statement, right? The challenge statement was legacy servers. There was no defined peak times. Now, what do I mean by peak times? There are various online retailers who have these billion days. I'm sure you and me have all been a part of those billion days. Unlikely, the kind of fervor and kind of Magnus amount of people who go ahead and do this, that directly impacted this particular customer, right? The number of hits started coming in and it was unpredictable, right? The servers couldn't take care of that kind of load. What Hitachi did is replaced and upgraded some of their core infrastructure, right? By deploying Dell's high-end performance SSD SAN storage with very high IOPS, looking at moving from traditional rack-based servers to blade servers that help them optimize cost, that help them optimize space, that help them optimize a lot of operational and capex investment. This was very integral. We didn't do it for this thing. We discussed with the customer and said, we are looking at a 5-year strategy, right? The investment span also over 5 years. This is how you are going to look at any kind of unpredictability and identify how your technology, how your infrastructure is going to get that kind of demand, right? So that's some of the solutions that we have done, some of the customers. Of course, since this year, we don't have to go very far. These are some of the big names that we have successfully managed to deploy our solutions since start of this financial year, right? As you can see, these are the names. We span across different verticals, different segments. We got that right understanding to say what has happened and what is going to happen. So I would love to be a part of those discussions with some of the potential customers who are listening to me, and do give us a chance in terms of how do we go ahead and do the same magic that we have done with some of the customers. So I think I've covered everything, and I thank you so much for listening to me. But before we sign out, I have a message. Wear a mask, donate blood, plant a tree, serve the needy, save water, stop using plastic, and let us put our hands together to save our Mother Earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for your presentation and those wise words to round up the presentation. Let all of us take home this message. We must care for ourselves and the environment for a better tomorrow. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to our next presentation. We haven't got any questions. In case you have any clarifications, do get in touch with Mr. Mishra directly. We're going to move on to our next presentation on the future of technology leadership. For this presentation, please welcome Mr. Sanjay Bhutani, Senior Vice President, Adani Connect. Mr. Bhutani is a management professional with 25 years of experience in various fields like IT, telecom, business development, sales and marketing, cloud and data center builds, vendor management, customer service, and business processes. Before joining Adani Connect, he has worked in various large organizations, including Global Cloud Exchange, Tulip Telecom, and Bharti Airtel in senior leadership positions. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Bhutani.
Thank you so very much. Delighted to be part of such a wonderful event. And I'll request if you guys can present. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have my presentation.
Yes, we're just going to play it out for you.
Thank you so very much for that.
Sanjay, I would request you to please share your screen and play the presentation if you can.
You're asking me or the other Sanjay?
Sanjay Mahapatra, because he had started his screen sharing.
Got it. Yes. Thanks, Sanjay. So guys, good afternoon. Can we have the second slide, please? So the subject is very interesting and it has actually touched everyone's heart. So I wanted to go to a background and see if we can recollect. Pigeons were the one who was actually carrying a message for all of us way back when we were not existing on this earth. And the technology actually shaped different form and various ways. Then telegraphy came in, the telephone came in. I still recollect my old days when we used to go to a PCO booth and call our parents, call our relatives and friends. So that from there, the computer came in, and computer was only a desktop then. Then internet came in, then we used to watch the black and white TV way back about 2 decades or 3 decades back. Then cloud came in, private cloud came in, hybrid cloud came in, and now AI, ML, and a lot of stuff is happening in our journey. And everything is actually is a tech, and tech evaluation is carrying us the way we used to do things, and everything is changing in our life. Today, whatever we are doing, it is happening at a lightning speed. It has actually changed the way we live, the way we breathe, the way we do things. And everyone is watching us, and the speed and the agility this technology is bringing in our lives is phenomenal. So can we go to next slide, please? So while world has changing from last 3,000 years, things are changing for us. And let's get into a specific about India. So in India, I started my journey with telecom. I'm able to relate. I used to work for a largest telecom company, and then we used to have a couple of million customers. Now it has touched more than 1 billion telecom customer, which is mobile customer. And internet users are growing at about 35% CAGR year on year in India. Digital payments is something when we started a banking, we used to feel pride going to a bank. And then the transformation, which digital transformation has actually changed the way we do digital things on a payment side. This has also is growing almost 70% CAGR. And social media is integral part of our life. B2C, one name is written, B2B, we know LinkedIn is something which is all of us very proud. And there are different stages of our life. Telecom is one which is evolved from a mobile telephony to internet telephony, and then B2B part of it. And social media is something which we know this has also become an integral part. And government is also playing a key role in terms of UIDA. It's one of the biggest program which is across the globe. This has become a success story from a government side. And government is also playing a key role in a digital India. And I'm sure all of us will agree, the 5 trillion economy which we have to reach by 2025, this technology is going to play a key role. And this is changing the world. This is changing India. Everyone is watching us. And I'm sure all of us know the IT leaders, the integral part of ecosystem is going to help us to achieve our mission of 5 trillion economy. Next slide, please. So how do we relate all of this while our lives are changing, everything is changing? I think clearly the enterprises are the one who are playing a key role. And what enterprises are doing, the process automation is something which is we are bound to go into automation mode. And automation mode ultimately is happening from the technology adoption. And technology adoption is not only picking up brains, picking up processes. Is clearly we have to stitch a lot of stuff which is needed to be more efficient. And process automation is a vast subject at various verticals. It has transformed. Like I want to touch upon the other aspect of the hiring. So human resources used to be a function wherein we used to just check HR is getting a candidate physically for us, and then we are interviewing, meeting three meetings, and then ultimately handing over a letter, and the physical presence of an employee comes. Now it has actually completely transformed after pandemic, and I see a clear new future in HR. They have become a tech HR. They have become a business HR for us. Everything has become digital for them, and the remote way working for all of us has also transformed our way of doing things. I recollect we have in last about 4 or 5 months, we recruited 70 people, and we are yet to meet anyone. And everyone is actually transformed so well. We are able to relate on a video screen with all of them. We never thought we are going to have this life ever, but ultimately technology is helping us to stay connected with everyone. Digital labor is another one which is very important part, at least in some verticals, like banking is one, data center is another one, where we used to love to see people. I think digital labor is something which is the process automation also playing a key role. and we are eliminating inefficiencies. We are getting a scale, we are getting a sustainability, wherein digital labor is something manual part of it is getting out of our life. Marketing is another piece which is very important. Digital and social media marketing. I tell you, LinkedIn used to be a tool which was not very well used by B2B. Today, the way we see our Facebook, I think most of us are using LinkedIn every 10-15 minutes. And operations of every organization based on IoT, AI, and ML. These are the three things which are bringing a lot of business operation efficiency. And this is something which is driving a big time growth. And this operations are something which, irrespective of vertical, all of us are seeing a massive growth in our operation. This is ultimately translating into a big revenue for all the verticals. Next slide, please. Ultimately, what is happening? Who's doing all of that? We need technology, we need process, we need agility, we need speed. Who are the mastermind behind all of this? Clearly, guys, CIO is the one who's actually transforming all of this. They are the orchestrator of innovation, and they are the one who are bringing change in organization. Currently, if you look at business leaders, they are the one who will always consult. The business strategy is getting formed by CIOs. And in terms of business growth also, no one can actually disengage with the CIO and the IT fraternity. Clearly, the CIOs are the one who are getting a lot of innovation. They are transforming organizations. They are transforming our lives. They are the strategists. They are the one who's defining business. Way back, about a decade back or 5 years back, guys, we used to think IT leaders are going as a support function for us. They are enablers. They are the catalysts who are changing everything for us. Currently, the business leader himself, you will find many CIOs becoming a CXO of organization. Earlier, we have seen CFOs are becoming CEOs. Now you will find a lot of CIOs and the IT leaders are becoming business leaders because they are the one who's driving this growth. So for us, from a CIO perspective, we clearly see they are the innovator in chief. That's a new definition which we feel, and they have actually helped us to grow, and they'll continue to help us in future as well. So CIOs are something which are delivering true value. They are the one who's playing a key role in business, and they are the one who's driving growth for digital economy and their respective organizations. Next slide, please. So while everything is happening, ultimately, what is happening at the back end? So back end is IT infrastructure is needed. We need a lot of stuff at the back end which can support the speed and the agility and the transformation. So these are the things which are important. Ultimately, IT platforms are required. And IT platforms are required, then how do we make sure the IT platforms are very efficient? And those platforms ultimately reside somewhere. So then data center is going to play a key role. Any successful digital transformation needs a strong backbone, and backbone, as I said, is an IT infrastructure and the data centers. And the data center is also a critical element while the data is getting stored. I can relate this very well with our business line where we are currently. Data center used to be a very small business for some of the telcos. Now the scale itself is becoming important. I tell you, in terms of cloud adoption itself, India is at a nascent stage. We are only 10, 12, 15% people are using cloud. And there is a long runway for us to cover. But at the same time, the good news is we are growing at 30, 35%. And data center does what? Data center keeps your data stored, and you need a scale. And still 50, 60% of organizations and enterprises are on-prem. They are not shying away adopting a multi-cloud strategy and a hybrid cloud strategy, which actually makes them very, very efficient. And scale and sustainability also plays a key role. The way we are looking at this industry is scale is very important. We are building data center parks which are going to actually transform and help CIOs to grow faster. The second aspect is sustainability. Every organization have taken a pledge to be a carbon neutral by this year and some day and some month. We are making sure these guys become 100% carbon neutral, because Adani being a power company, we are helping them to transform as an overall organization, irrespective of which vertical is that. The other important aspect is, all of us know 5G on cards. We are also transforming the way people can do a more compute close to a customer. How can we make them more efficient? So Edge is going to play a key role in the transformation and this journey which CIOs are playing. This is something which we have to adopt it as soon as possible, because rest of the world is already catching up on that aspect. So data center and the IT infrastructure, I give you another example. Currently, what happens is some of the banking verticals, people love to buy IT infrastructure. And the day is not far. We are going to have a model where it's bare metal as a service, and some of the equipments which people can today take an OpEx model, and later they can become an owner of that. So those kind of transformations will help us to grow faster and will help us to transform better for a CIO. Guys, can you mute it, please? Some of the guys are, I think, unmuted. Can we go up to next slide, please? So this actually brings into a very interesting fact. So while CIOs are helping us, business leaders are helping us, the transformation is taking place. I think clearly 2-3 things which are very important for India to adopt. As I said, cloud adoption is a nascent stage. And we are going to grow on a cloud side very, very fast. And the CIOs are playing a vital role. But the world has transformed into many forms. And there is no shame in adopting or copy pasting a lot of stuff which is evolved. Like I tell you, data center, people have done an evaluation in terms of getting into a water and creating a data center. And sustainability has gone beyond power. There are various ways and means people are changing world. So we have to just copy paste those practices and adopt it fast. Community of interest is another piece which is a social cause and is a business cause. We have to adopt it. And while CIOs are doing what they are supposed to do, and they are thinking about future, and future is becoming very, very good for all of us, and all of us are transforming, and we are able to do things better way, and at lightning speed we are able to do that. But ultimately we need to transform in terms of what we think, how the future is going to evolve, because technology, there is no fixed philosophy or a style going to work. Every day our lives are changing. While our lives are changing, we have to be speed to a market, and speed to market is we have to be very, very fast adopting organization or individual or enterprise. So I think that speed and agility is very important for all the CIOs, all the business leaders, everyone in India. And I'm sure everyone is watching us. Being a digital India is core strength for all of us. And I'm very, very proud to say all the digital leaders, all the transformation leaders, what we have on a call, and maybe they're not, but some of them are not part of the call. Those guys are helping us to grow. I'm very, very thankful to them. And innovation is something which is the key for us. We can't be a follower on that. I'm sure all of us are leader, and I'm sure all of us going to make India very, very proud. And we will make sure we support from a data center perspective, energy perspective, and a telecom network perspective. We are going to help and support and make sure we come in your success journey and make you very successful. Thank you so very much. Thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak on this forum. Any questions?
Mr. Vatani, let me check. We haven't received any questions so far. And if there are any clarifications, I will ask them to ask the participants to get in touch with you, because as of now, we don't see any questions that have come in the Q&A box. Thank you so much for sparing the time to come today and share with us your presentation. For the next presentation, please welcome Mr. Krunal Patel, Director, Team Viewer. He will be doing this presentation on managed services. As the Director of India Region Operations at TeamViewer, Krunal is responsible for end-to-end business management of SAARC countries, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, and Bhutan. He has more than 14 years of sales and business management experience. So please welcome Mr. Patel. Put your hands together and let's welcome Mr. Patel. Over to you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Anisha. I hope my voice is clear and screen is visible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And it was very fascinating listening to Sanjay for a very wonderful presentation. Let me again thank Enterprise IT and everyone for giving me an opportunity and also bringing this very, very important community together. As I always say that, CIO are the pillars of digital transformation, and without that, it will not be executed. We all know that, today has actually put us in a very different situation. I spoke to some of you last year when we did the COVID Hero Awards, and also when we actually met in 2019 in the CIO 500. So today what I would like to do is I just like to give you an overview of how TeamViewer has evolved over the last 3 years, and what else we can do with you to augment your digital transformation journey. Starting with TeamViewer for last 15 years have been constantly evolving and delivering solutions for support and for remote support. 2018, we embarked on the Industry 4.0 journey with our first IoT platform launch. Then we launched our AR platform, and now we have full-fledged AR solutions for different use cases. So TeamViewer today offers you a solution which is your enterprise-wide solution for your IT, employee, customer, vendor support, or automating your digital processes via the Industry 4.0 solutions. We are able to help you across your industry value chain, whether it is product development or reducing the downtime, after sales support, supporting of things, supply chain optimization with warehouse optimization, or Internet of Things, or manufacturing where you want to improve your turnaround time or reduce error rates. And we have solutions across the value chain which could be useful in your business processes. We did a survey last year in 2020 with a lot of your peers worldwide, and CIOs responded it from different locations. And we said that, okay, what is changing as a priority for CIOs? And to our fascination, digital transformation, supporting new business models, and pivoting to digital or direct to customer were among the top responses. And I'm sure all of you are having similar kind of experiences. Suddenly, whether it is COVID related or non-COVID related, or the restrictions which we see, we are compelled to reach to our customers via digital media. Now, I'm not saying that it is always e-commerce, but it could be all the other omni-channel options which you would take, maybe deliver a mobile application or deliver an e-commerce portal or any other digital option. So connectivity, customer experience, and digital movement has actually been the paradigm which all of you are embarked on. TeamViewer as a company is focused on helping you digitize these business processes. So we want to give you a whole and soul connectivity solution. With our unique scalable architecture, actually help you digitize your enterprise end to end. Whether it is a very important use case like working from home, or supporting your employees who are working at home, or monitoring a SCADA system which is running, or a DCS system for your smart manufacturing, we have the connectivity solution for you. This connectivity solution, coupled with our management tools, gives you a very robust approach towards managing your IT and your OT systems. So focus on OT-driven technology and one source of truth for management has been a very, very widely used subject in manufacturing IT and in digitization. This platform is open, API first, and we are very, very open to develop solutions which solves your connectivity problem. We understand that each enterprise has a different digital roadmap, has a different digital challenge which they have to address. But the one thing is common across the enterprises is that how do we connect, collaborate, control, and engage on digital platforms? And those are the problems which we can help you solve, whether it is controlling a laptop, mobile, desktop, or SCADA DCS systems, or any other IoT devices. Today, TeamViewer use cases have gone beyond screen. It has become anything, support of things. So there are customers who are supporting smart farm equipment using our platform. There are customers who are supporting boiler temperature using our platform. We have evolved, and this connectivity platform is able to give you solutions for remote connectivity, remote control, remote access, data transfer across different devices with one standard dashboard. Customers across the globe have used us for a variety of things. Some of you are also our customers, and thank you for that. You use it for your IT support, but there are also customers who are using it for point of sale support, for supporting employees, customers, work from home, supporting medical devices. So we are very open for any kind of connectivity problem that you bring to us, and with our network and with our solutions, we'll be happy to engage and create something standard, universal, or custom to work with. Two specific use cases which have been very successful, and I just want to bring that up, which you can, as a CIO, think about. With mobile first and mobile everywhere, it is imperative that you support your users on mobile. But we all know mobile is a very, very personal thing. It would be very difficult to apply our standard remote support solutions and control someone's mobile, even if it's a company mobile, because there is a lot of privacy concerns. This problem is what we are solving with our mobile SDK. Mobile SDK on top of our enterprise solution allows you to create custom solution which will help only in application support. It could be your HR application. It could be your customer application. The moment someone moves out of that application, the remote support session is closed. This kind of tools and techniques are available, and we are very, very happy to engage. Not all the customers are comfortable, or not all the vendors are comfortable with having a full remote control based solution for a screen sharing requirement. Here, if you have a mobile application or a website which needs guidance or where you need to coach people, you can use our co-browsing platform. Sitting on our enterprise, the co-browsing platform will only allow to show you your agents what the customer is seeing and navigating, and masking all the information on the either sides. Co-browsing is not remote control. It is not screen sharing. You don't send any link or any downloads. It is straightforward screen sharing over the website or the mobile application. Not only that, friends, we work in an ecosystem and we strive to be as open as possible. Today, TeamViewer integrations are available across different operating systems, hardware platforms, and software applications for coexistence with IT service desk or last mile support for a remote management solution or a mobile device management solution. Furthermore, we have very strong approach towards API. Even if you have an application where you just want to use our web service like a microservice for remote access, Happy to do that. Understand, evaluate, and start from there. So connect with us for your connectivity problem. I am sure we'll have one for everyone. Look forward to continued support from all of you and grow this business. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you so much, Kunal, for your presentation. I think we have, okay, we've got some questions, but these questions are coming a little late. So I would request you to please type in your questions as and when the speaker is speaking. And as of now, now we don't have any questions that have come in directly for you. So again, a request to the audience to please send us the questions as and when it comes to your mind and you heard the speaker before the speaker ends his presentation. Thanks a lot, Kunal, for your presentation. And for any clarifications that any of you in the audience have, to reach out to Mr. Patel. I'm sure he will be happy to help you with all those clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anisha. Thank you, Enterprise IT World. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Right. Now, the COVID pandemic has radically changed our relationship with technology. Most businesses are turning online to ensure business continuity. Data generation has hit unprecedented levels due to the increased internet usage and broader deployment of IoT devices. And there are no surprises for guessing. We need more data centers to store all the data. We now have a panel discussion to talk about the future of data centers in India. Please welcome our esteemed panelists who are joining us for this discussion. Please welcome Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CTO CISO, Batliwala and Karani Securities, Mr. Punish Lamba, Chief Technology Officer, Shahi Exports, Mr. Anil Porter, AVP IT and GDS Services, CIO, Interglobe Technology, Mr. Piyush Gupta, Associate Vice President, Adani Connect, and the discussion will be moderated by Mr. B.S. Rao, Vice President Marketing, Control S Data Center. Mr. Rao, I'd like to hand it over to you to take this discussion forward.
Thanks, Anisha. Very good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to the esteemed panelists. We have a rich panel, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Mukesh, Mr. Anil, Punish, and Piyush. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that the world is heading towards the post-COVID scenario, and this is just the beginning, according to me. But however, there's been an explosion of data. Now, the explosion of data and data management is very critical to IT leaders and businesses. There's no doubt that CIOs power the economies and the world. There's no doubt that they are the champions of change. They are the change leaders, change management leaders in the IT space. They're playing a very pivotal role. They say data is the new oil, but data is also under the custody of the IT leaders. So you can imagine the power the IT leaders and the CIOs wield. But more importantly, we are at the crossroads of transformation. So today, we're going to be discussing about where do we embark from here? How do we deal with this data, which currently powers economies, world, politics, businesses, education, medical science, space research, and whatnot. So I'd like to invite Mr. Anil to throw some light on the role of data centers and the future of data centers, the way he sees it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rao. So I think all IT fraternity has seen what all transformation, speed at which things have moved, worked out in the last 1.5 years. One very important thing which the pandemic has taught us is that the speed at which we can operate. I think we've been kind of not working or working with those speeds, and IT industry, IT leaders across industry have shown the speed at which things can work. Now, obviously, that speed has, there have been two reasons for that speed. One is there was an eventuality which was happening. How do you keep the business continuity? Um, People have worked on various BCP plans, DRs, and all. That's what we used to be kind of working towards or planning to earlier in those days. But I don't think so. Any organization in this world had kept this as an eventuality and created a BCP. It was intrinsically how investments have happened over a period of time, which gave certain flexibility and maneuverability to IT leaders to ensure that their organization had a continuity of business. Now, what really has happened, and based on the question in terms of uh, the role, evolving future, so there are things beyond what has happened and things that are moving out. Uh, One is speed, but obviously there are furthermore kind of आशीष एक कॉल करो बाद में करता हूँ एक कॉल करो बाद में करता हूँ so sorry so there are other factors and other influencing points which have kind of made all IT leaders, and I can talk about my own self, in terms of how do we look forward into that future of uncertainties, how things would go. We've already seen that we kind of living with this virus for almost good, closing to 1.5 years plus, and there are no kind of indication that this virus is going away so easily. There are changes happening across the industrial transformation that is happening, uh, compliances that are increasing, different cost models and different cost structures are evolving. Everybody is hard pressed against the costs, the optimization that is needed. We've seen and we're seeing that there is other environmental factors, other geopolitical factors impacting businesses. Now, I won't get into the geopolitical part of it, but definitely the environmental part of it. So, my personal belief is that there are three fundamental verticals or three fundamental pillars based on which organization will have to look through and devise and see where do they go forward. Now, we've already seen a lot of cloud adoption, whether it is on infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service or SaaS model, managed services, complex security operations. All this is kind of fueling already the cloud journey, and people are going into heterogeneous clouds, managed hostings, taking some service for intermittent period of time, and all that. But the three verticals or three important pillars which will kind of define how organization will go forward or will have to kind of look through those lenses is the compliances, regulatory compliances, environmental impact, cost, and efficiencies. So based on these three elements, and I'll dwell upon each one of them. I'll pick up the environmental first. It's becoming a kind of a huge pain for organization, and that pain is going to get intensified further with more regulation, how to offset carbon footprints, each whether it is services. Already there is pressures on manufacturing, there is pressures on airlines to reduce the carbon footprint. There is a global mandate where India is also signatory to reduce the greenhouse effect, the carbon emission, and there are targets set where it is obligatory for countries to ensure that by years there are landmarks by which they have to bring down their carbon footprint to pre 2000 levels. Given that aspect, each and every element which generates or which is contributing to generation of carbon will be looked at with deep lenses. This will have regulatory impact. So one is the this particular impact of so-called environment with more complex things that are coming in terms of regulations, data residencies, compliances towards just not only the law of the land, but also there are international laws, international standards through which the business is getting governed. If you're kind of working out of India and only servicing Indian customers, then Indian acts or Indian laws applies to you. Moment you go on to territories beyond India, then there are other jurisdictions and other laws that comes in. All that will kind of make uh, the complexity of making the business and running the business with those constraints and compliances and regulation more difficult. This will lead to an impact on skill set, standards, skill set upgradation. That is a continuous process. As I talked about the speed at which things have moved in the last 1.5 years, it will have impact on obsolescence, not only technological obsolescence, but also skill set obsolescence. Now, more organizations are getting focused towards business driven outcomes. Mundane tasks like these will be kind of, an organization will be kind of forced to look at it depending upon the scale that they operate at, what they keep inside, what they give it outside, how they select their partner ecosystems on those evolving elements. So environmental compliances, regulatory compliances, technological obsolescence, skill set obsolescence, and the costs at which the organizations have been operating will be under severe pressures. And we already are seeing those pressures, which all of us have been going through in the last 1.5 years. How to ensure that we not only kind of ensuring that whether it is an on-prem data center or managed through cloud operators or hosted contacts or hosted data centers, these things will force and evolve the ecosystem in a way that it becomes so very lucrative and so very compelling to look at taking your on-prems to uh, cloud operators, to manage data center operators. This will fuel further growth. This will bring in efficiency. This will bring in the impact of IT leaders to be more strategic and business contributing, just not only being focused on to bottom line activities. So, whether it is the personal, I would say, ambitions of CIOs as to how they become more relevant in strategic decisions, how they're more visible into the board, how they bring that values, and manage and be compliant to all the new evolving regulations and compliances that happens, and mitigate the challenge of obsolescence at every level. So I personally feel and I personally believe that this will have a very higher propensity and things will move in that direction. So I love to call the new age or the current age factories, data center factories, so called, where people will move. And based on discussion that we earlier were having, there's a huge gap in terms of what is the supply side and what is the demand side. I think one of the panelists said that this 5 million square feet and what is required is 50 million square feet. There's a huge deficit, and that demand is not coming because of anything or what cloud operators or data center operators are pushing as an agenda, but this is what will happen, and that's how these demands are coming in. Huge compute requirements are coming in. The scale at which every organization is working requires more compute. The technology adoption that is happening, whether it is the AI adoption or machine learning adoptions into various aspects of business, more data analytics. Data is being pivotal to organization strategic, I would say, discussion. Without data and correct data inferences, no decision happens. How do you collate structured unstructured data, which are already like kind of matured as an industry when it comes to data lakes, processing, in RAM processing, and all those stuff, which will further fuel this thing. So I'm a fundamental believer that whether an organization likes it or not, it would make compelling sense over the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years max, to be moving to this new age factories, new age data center world, which is compliant and continues to comply to ever evolving regulations and compliances, easing out the organization to concentrate more onto strategic objectives and deliver value.
Thanks, Anil. Thank you very much for that. And I understand that CIOs are playing a pivotal role in transformation, and then outsourcing is certainly one of the key strategic decisions all of you are making. However, as I move to Dr. Mukesh, Dr. Mukesh, Mr. Anil said that outsourcing is the way forward. And we understand the future of data centers um, are going to probably shape up the way economies perform. What is your understanding and what do you predict in terms of the outsourcing trends? Do you still feel that on-premise is relevant, or do you think that outsourcing is the way forward? Over to you, Doctor.
There are a couple of views we need to revisit. What the pandemic has done is that it has forced people to revisit everything, anything, and all things. So that now we need to revisit what is happening and what is the way forward. I'm a strong believer that the way the things have changed in last 10 years in the telecom industries, we are heading for same thing in the data center industry. Next 2 or 5 years, we'll have another 5, 10 big players coming into the thing, and then there will be a real price war for the data center space. So then the real problem will start for the data center. Today, everybody is looking for a space, everybody is looking for the hosting model and all those things. But what I feel that in next 2 or 3 years, there will be a head-on price war between these players, and the CIO will need to be uh, very strategically looking into the who is giving what value and what is happening at which level. He will have to be very selective, how to select which services. 10 years back, when the cloud journey started, we never thought of interop in cloud. Now, today, we are discussing this. So maybe in 3 or 4 years, when we set for another this year, CDC Champion Years in Champion Awards in 2025 or something, we'll have DC operability also coming into picture. So there will be a lot of players who will be fighting for these things. So then the CIO need to be very selective. On premises is going to stay. It is going to stay. And for particularly for the BFSI sector, this is going to stay because regulators pushes you first, and the data privacy act and will further push it that you have to have everything in India. And when it comes to it, India, the people will have a selection on premises versus data center. The other problem is that in the long run, we need to be very selective. What is your economics going to impact? You can have a situation where you have a hosted model, you have on premises, you have a combination of this thing. Apart from going only discussing about the DC or hosted model or the on premises, actually we need to envisage our vision and look into the what values these data centers are going to bring on the table. We can have a hybrid mode, on-premises data center, and the managed services by some partner, some player, third-party data center, or some private players who are not into data center space. So this combination is going to work in future. It cannot be a pure hosted model in future. So the CIOs need to look into the complete combination, who is offering what and what is on the cards for the entire landscape. So you need only hosting a rack space should not be your approach or your thought process. What value or who is bringing on the table? We need to discuss. We need to evaluate the SOC services, the NOC services, the other or the regulators impact. In BFSI, we have so much of regulators, the audits and all those things. So who is bringing what? So I think the way forward is not a pure hosted model, mix of hosted model or data centers. A typical will call it a hybrid IT world where everything will be available. You need to prioritize and you need to selective. You need to be very selective what is there. So my summary will be that there will be too many problems, multiple problems for this at the desk of the CIO, and he will really enjoy those problems. So having multiple problems, multiple data center, like we discussed about Adani in this thing. There are another 4 or 5 big players. So there will be multiple problems at the CIO's desk, and he will really love to enjoy those problems, love to enjoy those problems. So for my take is we need to plan for a hybrid IT world, hybrid IT workload, a combination which is fixed in your budget, which fits your pocket, which fits your entire schema. You cannot be saying, okay, I'm going purely on hosted model. If you select a data center whose hosting services are very cheap, but if the NOC services are not good, you are going to be in a big problem. Other way also, so you need to have a very selective model and you have to be hybrid model. You can't continue to have a single slot.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. So I see there are two opinions. Mr. Anil said that outsourcing could be the way forward, and Dr. Mukesh feels that it could be either outsourcing or it could be on-premise. I would therefore like Mr. Punish to come in and share your thoughts. What do you think is the future? I mean, we seem to be having divided opinion in terms of outsourcing versus, on-premise. What are your thoughts, Mr. Punish?
Thanks, Mr. Rao, and good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Look, my thoughts are that with the rise of cloud computing, we see cloud everywhere these days. All discussions that are around data centers largely talk about cloud. And the paraphernalia around it, however, we forget that the shadows of cloud, traditional enterprise data centers are also adapting to this change and are evolving fast. They're becoming increasingly business driven, simplified, and standardized due to this. And because of this, hybrid IT, and I agree with Mukesh here, has now become mainstream. Where future IT infrastructure will not be limited to a single environment. We will continue to have a combination of on-premise, cloud, edge, co-location, managed hosting. So we have so many choices these days, and all of them will coexist. That's my view. And if we talk about DC technology, it is also becoming more intelligent, automated, software-defined, which will definitely improve data center resiliency by leaps and bounds in future. Again, and as I said earlier, that while cloud is becoming more popular exponentially for all the right reasons, but at the same time, core set of workloads will remain on-premise for a large chunk of companies. That means on-premise data centers will also evolve at much faster pace. And options like self-contained racks, that has their own cooling systems, reduce energy consumption, on-premise irrespective of where they are being innovated. Even if the innovation has happened in cloud, they'll just come here and get replicated. After all, cloud also is a set of machines that offer compute, storage, network, etc. Right, and with some wonderful solutions, of course, and offerings wrapped around them. Are they always useful? Yes, they are most of the time. But are they an overkill sometimes? Yes, again, they are. So if I have to choose cloud over on-premise, what do I expect? So Mr. Rao, I expect consumption-based model, means an actual pay-per use, even if it comes with some riders like longer commitment or minimum spends, commitments, etc. And in future, the reasons I will go to cloud is not only cost and peace of mind, but also agility, extremely important, flexibility, ability to innovate, scalability on demand, and security. And maybe there are many other. There is a set of criteria that we have. If I talk about our organization, we have our workloads on-premise data center, public cloud, managed hosting, edge also, and within public cloud we have infra as a service, platform as a service, software as. So basically, what I'm saying is we truly have hybrid IT, and I see this trend will continue. Based on the business driver that I mentioned earlier, the agility and flexibility and scalability on demand, etc. We will continue to decide which workloads are best where. This is the future of data centers for us. Additionally, and this is very important, data centers will become core of every company's strategy. More so, whether it is a manufacturing company or a services company, all of them aspire to become a technology company ultimately. Right? We know that Netflix, Uber, Airbnb, Amazon, etc., all of them have used technology to become leaders in their fields. And we know that every traditional company is staring at oncoming disruption sooner or later, and are almost 100% sure that disruption will have a strong technology role, right, role to play. And wherever technology is involved, data is involved, data centers will come into play. So net, what I'm saying is that I will not be surprised if the data centers becomes tomorrow's shop floors where all the action happens. So that is the future, Mr. Rao. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Punish. Thank you very much. I mean, you as leaders, all of you, certainly, managing the current infrastructure, planning the future. You're also coping with emerging technologies, be it, IoT, be it serverless computing, be it cloud, be it edge computing. Now, the very important question is, while you're managing data and you're looking at the shifts, whether it's on-premise or otherwise cloud, CIOs are evolving as leaders as well, from being just the IT infrastructure management, or the leaders who are managing infrastructure management, to data management, and now eventually, stepping into the strategy role. So I'd like Dr. Mukesh to throw some light on the evolving role and the role that data centers would play in that journey of a CIO.
Uh,
Dr. Mukesh, over to you.
I think the CIO role is changing every 3 years or 5 years. 20 years back, it was a EDP manager, something like that. Today, CIOs everywhere actually. So 5 years back, it was just a CTO or managing the data center, managing your thing. Today, in last 5 years, 7 years, we have moved to the boardroom. So everything is now changing. Your entire LOBs, entire business is on now on the technology driven. So the role of CIO is more, the big data is coming into your server room, your office, your IoTs are connecting. Everything is now on the technology driven. Any business, whether it's a BFSI, whether it's a manufacturing, whether it's a healthcare, last 5 years there has been leaps and bound changes in the everything. So the role of CIO is changing thick and fast. Today we are part of, almost we have our foot in the boardroom also. So how do I see? Typically, the CIO role will be in the data center world, in the big data and all those things. It is going to eat up the world or the role of the CEO. So there will be a CIOO, something like that. CIO role, something is going to happen. So the role of the role is changing thick and fast. 5 years or 7 years back, you never had the the information security things in the discussion. Today, the information security is a part of every discussion. So now the big data is coming. 5 years, 10 years back, you were having a data in a, not even in the, hardly in the TBs. Now today, the TBs is the old world. Your cloud data is, every instance is now heading for a TB. So the data is moving. You have a lot of data in-house, lot of data outside. Everything is becoming a public domain. So the role of CIO is becoming vast, huge. And I won't be surprised in next 5-7 years, we get into the, not even in the boardroom, but the CEO desk also. But the first thing is, with the huge things coming into his portfolio, and everything driven through the technology, I think the role is going at leaps and bounds, and typically he's managing now the CEO desk also.
Fantastic. So, with that, I would like to ask Mr. Anil, the data center is actually moving to the edge now. I don't think we're going to have the large format data centers anymore when it comes to on-premise. What do you see the role of edge computing, Anil, from a strategic perspective, from an organizational perspective eventually? Because you need all the data to serve your customers at the edge, customer facing. What are your thoughts, Anil?
So, yes, so that if I really have to answer, I'll answer it in from two perspectives. Now, given the geographical spread, now obviously we know there's an impending 5G implementation that is happening. Eventually, it will get rolled out within, say, a year, or worst case 2 years time. Now, we've come from a era which is not that very old, I think about 3 to 4 years or 5 years, that depending upon the country of origination of service, which was on a SaaS or somewhere hosted, how to give that experience part, the customer experience part, how to make data travel faster, because we've moved on from dedicated networks to public network. Everything is now running, fueling more public network consumptions. There used to be time that from a QoS perspective, we used to put in IPLCs or MPLSs and all that. So we kind of moving to SD-WANs, everything, and we're getting that kind of quality of service on public networks itself. But to have better experience, we were like kind of pushing edge proxies, carriage proxies for faster responses and all. So within India, so again, the basis is that we're talking India. There's a huge potential, and this will happen, that there'll be more data centers that will come up, just not only in tier 1, tier 2, but tier 3, tier 4 cities as well. So this will, so based on time critical services, time critical application, how do you push data, how do you make it available? Because while data, the consumption will increase on services, there's more analytics coming into it, the speed will further increase. We will see edge proxies and serving the data at the edge so that it is rendered far more effectively and efficiently to complement business gains. But yes, while India would be growing in this speed, there'll be other countries also evolving and growing. How do those data center operators, which are outside the law, outside the territories of India, service, make much more better experience of rendering faster results, faster data processing? So those will happen, and I think it's a good space to be in, depending upon which geographies kind of evolve and are able to bring that I would say aspect of services far more effectively. But we're going to see very interesting times in terms of how do edge proxies and edge data on the edge evolves. Because if we see more data centers coming up in tier 3, tier 4, that means we'll have an interoperability operations between cloud and data center operators to deliver. So say, for example, I know Punish has locations in a lot of tier 4 tier or some rural belt where he struggles on the network side. So those manufacturing would be a big gainer for it, and it will only further fuel the economic growth in India, because those unexplored regions where economic activity has not happened because of lack of IT infrastructure, network infrastructure, those will get further, I would say, contributing larger to the GDP of the country, and will further fuel. So it will be mixed depending upon how the proliferations of data center happen beyond tier 2. Solar power generation will have more impact on it. Data centers anyhow are looking at how to kind of offset their power consumptions onto alternate sources. That's fueling, and I think how government will be looking at evolving certain regulations and standards that data center coming up in tier 3 and tier 4 will get some offsetting options in terms of land banks or whatever to generate alternate sources. So this will further fuel, because if I have to service a customer, or if I have to service an organization, like for example, Punish, in those locations, we will need edge proxies and faster delivery of services, because speed is going to increase. What speed that we've been seeing in the last 1.5 years, it will be neck-breaking speeds of things at which organization will have to move. And that's where I kind of keep coming back to the same thought process, that for organization, the biggest asset will be its agility. How nimble and agile is an organization? And an organization can only be agile and nimble if it is freed from the commodities or shackles of commodities. And that's how this will further fuel. And we will see real life use cases coming up, real business use cases coming up on edge, data delivery on the edge proxies within India itself, because in India, it's still not that very important. It's still not reached that stage. But yeah, with more consumptions, more service delivery, more e-commerce proliferating, different cities, we will see this becoming a reality very soon.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you very much. Munish, I would like you to comment on the role of edge data centers. We believe that India has got about a few thousand edge data centers at the moment and may require about 50,000 edge data centers over the next decade. Your thoughts on how edge is going to be transforming the way data is going to be managed, and how will it change your customer experience, and how key is it to your strategy?
Sure. So as Anil mentioned, that's a problem that not only we have. There are many organizations: oil, steel, paper, coal, mining. Even these all, their factories are there, or their units are there in areas, sometime in forest, sometime where there is no network at all, and we are still working on VSAT. I remember one of my last past companies wherein we were working in a Malaysian forest, and to cut the wood from there and make paper, and there was no data at all. So we used to use those old Stone Age technology VSAT to at least get some data out. So yes, edge proxy, edge will play a big role there. So whenever there is a lack of connectivity or there is slow connectivity, you can just keep on working on the edge, and then whenever there is a better speed available, you can just connect back, and everything restores. So that is one of the very key part of the strategy that we will have going forward. Also because we can't change the locations of our factories, and we will not change just because we have to go to cloud, right? So cloud has to come to us, and cloud will come through network only. So ultimately, network, you can only bypass the problems by having a twin there, right? Edge there, some compute, some storage available there, so that you can connect whenever you want to, connect whatever you want to. So definitely that will be part of our strategy going forward. So
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you very much. I'd now love to invite our friend Piyush. Piyush, hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Good. So Piyush, you heard our IT leaders and the future CEOs and board members speaking about how they're going to evolve their strategies. So
Right.
as one of the emerging data center players in the country, I'd just like you to touch upon those areas as to how do you see the future of data centers in this country, and what role is Adani playing there?
Yeah. See, future of data center will revolve around future of work, future of life, and in which digital first and digital discipline is here and will be here to stay forever. Now, in this new digital revolution, the scale and the size will rise to a level which was unheard of before. We have the conversation is moving from number of racks to megawatts of IT consumption. The conversation is moving, and the scale and size which the customer requirements are coming and the people are talking are the ones which have never been heard in this country before. And that brings me to the point exactly, which is one segment which we are here to serve and grow with, is hyperscale. So very big large data center farms will emerge across the country as a platform, and these multi-megawatts of IT loads will be surely serviced through these hyperscale data centers, which Adani Connects is on its journey firmly poised to, work and grow with. On the other side, as my co-panelists have already outlined, with the development of Industry 4, and as Sir said that you have to bring the cloud closer to the customer, and with the development of things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, which are cutting across every application. So edge will continue to play a very vital role, and that is the second prong of the strategy of Adani Connect, which is hyperlocal. So from hyperscale to hyperlocal and everything in between will be the way forward for the data center industry, and we are poised to service every segment and sub-segment across the spectrum to bring value to the customer. Now, as I told you earlier, power. So the conversations around power are gaining prominence, and which is, and data center world over are consuming 3 to 5% of the global energy, and which brings sustainability as a topic which is very, very relevant and important to the data center industry. And that is the third prong of the strategy, hyperscale to hyperlocal, powered by green energy. So this is a third subject which the data center industry will have to foray into. The conversation has to go beyond space and power into sustainability. And there are many methods of doing the sustainability, green energy being one, including things like water recycling and so on. So these conversations will gain prominence in the IT conversations with the CIOs, which will cut way beyond only compute, only storage, only space, only power, and move into sustainability, not only for the data center footprint of the organization, but also for organization as a whole. Recently, I noticed, I will not take names, a very large bank and a very large software company, leading both of them top 2, top 3, have indicated their carbon neutrality goals, which will be achieved by 2025 to 2030. So this is where a data center company and a green energy company can jointly bring value, which will bring the cutting edge, which will take the conversations from through the CIO into the boardroom. And today CIO is also moving into the boardroom and actually being the CEO and CEO of the future, which Mr. Mukesh has very clearly pointed out. So I see a value coming there. And more importantly, when you have such a large spread of physical footprint of these data centers and the edges, connectivity will have to be redefined. As sir said, there are many remote locations which don't still have access to connectivity. Of course, 5G will solve most part of it, but especially the inter-data center connectivity nationally will be a subject which will have to be taken up one more time. And I'm seeing private investment following this space, and data center companies also looking at NLD and ILD licenses. So these four prongs will be the future of the data center. And coming to the classical point of debate to cast my vote on on-prem to cloud. So it will surely be a coexistence. Some applications have moved to the cloud, and when the size grows beyond scale, economics force you to come back to on-prem. But this time the on-prem will not be behind the IT manager's desk, but actually be a co-located data center. And cloud as a technology is unavoidable. So cloud adoption will happen from a professionally managed data center, but not in a head office anymore, but in a data center. And seamlessly, the overages will flow into the public cloud based on demand, based on economics, as the case might be. So these are 4 or 5 high-level views which I have to say and submit for your kind submission to this panel.
Thank you, Piyush. Thank you very much. I know Adani is stepping into the country in a big way. We wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much.
India needs more of us. In fact, as Mr. Anil was saying, the Indian data center footprint, the third-party data center footprint, which is about I think about 5 million right now, has to grow to 50 million.
Yes.
And that's the need, number one. So which means it will contribute to the economy as well as the, the growth of the, the data. Number two, I think all data centers, like Piyush said, have to, take sustainability as a part of
as a key pillar in the strategy.
Correct. So sustainability will be a part of the journey, and I think
Yes.
solar and clean energy should become a part of that.
100%.
Having said that, we had the jury divided in terms of the jury was out in terms of, one of us saying on-premise, one of us saying probably outsourcing. I'd like to ask each of the panelists, what is the division of data that would evolve eventually between on-premise to outside the data center? So some of that would remain on-premise, and a certain percentage of that will remain outside that on-premise data center. So what percentage will be on-premise and what percentage is likely to be outsourced? So I'll ask a question to each one of us, and you can say what percentage it is. So I'll begin with Dr. Mukesh. What percentage do you think will be on-premise and the rest will be outside in terms of outsourcing, Dr. Mukesh?
I think the regulators will play a critical role here, because the more your industry is being regulated, typically in the BFSI, in the healthcare, the more data will be on premises. The critical data, the PI data will always be on premises, and the non-critical data will always be on a cloud or the hosted model. So it all depends on the regulators. The regulators will play a critical role, whether it's a SEBI, whether it's IRDA. They are multiple in the BFSI and similarly in the healthcare. These are the two sectors which are highly governed by the regulators. The others are moderately governed, so that gives them a bit flexibility. But there is no ground rule of the percentage or here and there. But more important, it is there what applications and what your the environment is where hosted. Like in the broking financial market, for the institutions and all those things, the algo tradings will be on premises and all those things. For the retailer, it may be on a hosted model. So the mix will be it will continue to be a mix. We will continue to work in a hybrid model. And another critical things which will define many things will be typically how do we get into the 5G, post 5G, when 5G is economical, 5G is available. This will be having a complete game changer. This might be a game changer where how do you decide? Because if data is available easily, people the CIOs and the business might think on a hosted model. And the third part is the security. How do you manage the security part on premises, off premises? What is your comfort zone, and how the regulators are also asking you. The fourth this thing will be in the future, maybe in 1 year or 2 year, the encryption, the data at rest. is encrypted or not. It is a decrypt data or encrypt data. So that will also play a critical role. If the regulators comes in the BFSI and healthcare that your data, old data, and everything will be is need to be encrypted, then it will become a bigger problem. So then the more data will come on premises because of the hot and cold data. So they are, again, I will say there are the multiple factors, and the CIOs will decide what is good and what is best in the economics also. Again, I keep repeating, whether it is a cloud, whether it is a hosted mall data center, if you do a 5 years or 7 years ROI, nothing is cheap. And the most important, when you say the data residing where, it depends on the plus plus provided by the data center. The plus plus is typically the SOC, NOC, and other facilities. What value they are bringing on the table for the CIOs or for the business, it depends on that also. The regulators and the value bringing that thing. So CIO and the encryption, whether the data is required to be encrypted at the on the data rest, your cold data. So these are the factors which will decide. There cannot be a thumb rule that 10%, 30%, for 50% or 70%. But the data, the bulk of percentage, the PI data or the individual data will reside on the encrypted model at the premises down the line.
Thanks, Doctor. Thank you very much. And Anil, what do you think? I mean, how are you going to make your decisions in terms of what's going to be on-premise and what is not going to be on-premise? And okay, we will set aside the question of percentages. But like Dr. Mukesh said, when you have compliance and regulatory issues, you're compelled to certainly retain some amount of data. So given a choice, compliance tomorrow allows saying, okay, you can now choose whether you want to be on-premise or on cloud, provided you have the checklist and the audit which is published. In such a case, Anil, as a CIO and as an IT leader, what would be your choice?
So I have a slightly different opinion than what my fellow panelist Dr. Mukesh had to say on the residency, whether it is on-prem or cloud. So again, I'll slightly elongate the answer in terms of bringing certain more aspects in answering that, Mr. Rao. So if we look at SaaS clouds, SaaS operators, global SaaS operators. Now you name the certification, they have it. You name the compliances, they have it. Any organization, when it comes to audits to either industry standards or statutory and non-internal audits.
Mr. Anil, sorry, I think the volume, if you could increase the volume, I think we have reached that.
Okay, is it better?
Absolutely. Thank
So
you.
what I was saying was that the global SaaS operators, you name the certification based on the country of operation, they have it in which all countries that they operate. So for SaaS, for cloud operators, for large data centers, it's not a choice to be compliant. It is a cost of doing business because they have to be certified and compliant to various standards, just not only a particular country, but globally wherever they operate. Now, whether it will be insourcing, outsourcing. So if I look at the laws of the country, laws of India, any regulator, they say that the residency has to be India. There are standards around data processing, whether it is in transit or rest. How do you manage that, whether it was BFSI or healthcare. The reason why it's still not going more onto cloud, it's kind of staggered, is primarily around the equipments which are used, which are very heavy in terms of what data footprint that they have. Like, for example, if you end up doing an MRI or a CT scan, the digital file is too big today. And how do you transport that, make it available? So they kind of put it there. They have whatever data shelf lives that they operate at. So there are nuances of the industry, then nuances of the regulator or compliance or law that we operate under. So I'm of the, again, firm believer that it will be cloud or hosted data centers, because no organization would be into, there was a time when they were capex hungry and they used to invest into capex because it had some meaningful impact on the balance sheets. But it's gone because the visibility in terms of business plan is not beyond 3 years. Fine, we have a long-term view to economy and business, but any business model or plan, you can't think about beyond 3 years because the obsolescence, not only in terms of technology, but also models also becoming so fast. It just cannot happen that technology has obsolescence. Business model will have obsolescence. That's why you fuel the cycle of reinvesting, having better ROIs. So this is the entire basis of why you see such a growth in our country. And especially if you talk about India, the demographics of the countries are so unique that 65% of the population is under 31 years of age. It's such a young country, which is fueling more consumption. The true middle class consumption is now coming out. Had this pandemic not been there, we would have been in the top 3 economies of the world. That's not gone. It will happen eventually. It will happen. If that is happening, the way organization will have to outsource. So they will outsource whatever is getting commoditized. Any niche skill set is, they will have it. And the day that niche skill set becomes obsolete, or not obsolete, I would say becomes a commodity, it will go out. And that's the cycle that will continue to happen. So anything which is niche will be closed. That's how, as humans, we behave. We will show that human behavior in say in technology also. Once it is commodity, it will go because it has given that business value. Now you just have to run it as how it has to be done, with more focus coming on to newer things. So outsourcing is will get more, I would say, propensity, because it is becoming difficult to get skill sets. Even in niche skill set, organizations are not able to uh, have a larger life cycle of those resources because they move on, because they've learned what you had as an organization to. Service providers have an edge because they deal with larger industries and larger use cases. And that's where professionals grow. They grow and earn more. If we see today, in the last 6-8 months, the amount of attrition that has hit this IT industry, especially the organizations which are into back office outsourcing, especially IT development, massive attrition that is happening, massive rise, because the fuel organization industries are fueling the automation growth story. Everybody is investing into automation to look forward how do kind of they automate and bring in more efficiency. That is happening. This is again fueling this thing. So smaller organization or mid-level organization, it is becoming increasingly difficult for them to retain talent, because the talent is getting moved to larger system integrators, because they have that. The employee also looks at that my future is more secure because I'll learn more. Eventually they will earn, that is guaranteed, but learning is first. Similarly, skill set, obsolescence, niche, all these factors will move or will force organizations to move towards outsourcing, whether it is skills or whether it is data processing and data residencies. So I liked what Mr. Piyush said, that it will be either a cloud or a hosted data center, which is again given as a service, because nobody is interested in buying hardware, because the obsolescence in hardware technology is also there. We're talking about high compute, HCIs, there'll be quantum processing that will happen. Where do organizations have this kind of bandwidth to keep on reinvesting into capital? They're better off in paying that as a service and consuming it, and use as look at that business model in terms of ROIs, because again 3 years there'll be obsolescence of that business model. They need to be doing something else. So this will force organizations to be looking at outsourcing of both skills and processing to the outside or specialized data center operators, or operators at a scale who can offer them the advantage of price. And that's how this world that we operate in will evolve.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you very much for that. And I completely agree with you. There are two things happening. Of course, one is modernization of infrastructure and applications, and second is the evolving and changing business models. And we've seen some of that during COVID-19 as well. With that, I'd like to invite Mr. Punish. Mr. Punish, the business models are changing. The application landscape is changing. There is emerging technology which is coming in, multiple technologies which have to be integrated. We've gone from servers to serverless. We've gone from physical hardware to cloud. Do you still believe that CapEx will be the focus of IT leaders like you, or you would love to work in a serverless environment? Over to you. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the same. So whether it'll be CapEx or it'll be serverless.
Sure. Look, largely, I'll say the world is moving to away from capex. Okay, and that will keep on happening. But if I say that that's the only way we will go, no. So the strategy is to have no strategy on this. Wherever, so basically the decision that we have to take is workload, placement, expected benefits, right? If they match with the business drivers that we have a marriage, and then we'll go ahead with that. If they don't, then you go to the next level and see cost, you see other benefits, right? You see peace of mind, you see no hands and feet support, right? So you can work virtually and all. So based on this, just the cut the long story short, based on this, we will decide whether we go serverless, we go capex, we go opex, what kind of investment will be there, and which option we will choose. But largely, I'll say that no strategy for me on this will not be there at all. We will not now say that it's a cloud first, it's a cloud only strategy. We will only say that yes, we are inclined towards cloud and world is migrating towards cloud. We are also going towards that. But cloud has to prove benefit for this workload. Then we'll go towards that. So that's my short comment.
Thank you, Piyush. I would like to now go across to Dr. Mukesh to understand, are CIOs now focused more on IT management or on top line and customer and bottom line? Where is the focus?
Focus is everywhere.
Okay.
Focus is everywhere. They need to, what I mentioned earlier also, they have a foot everywhere. So now they are aware of what is happening at what line, what business, where, everything. So they manages almost all things. So whether it is the IT operation, because as a CIO, as a CTO, your first role is continue to remain, keep the lights on. So you might be a good you might be playing a big role on strategy, you might be playing big role on the future technologies and all those things. But your basic role will always remains to keep the lights on, irrespective of whatever levels you are there. So you will have a team who will be IT or managing the entire IT operations. So the first things is always the basic will remain the same. The basic will continue same, that the lights, to keep the lights on. Now, since everything is driven by the technology, so the focus, the entire control and entire the landscape will be more bigger role. So the role of the CIO, manage the lights, manage the new things, manage the strategy, and then give a business a real value, how you can help business to give more revenue from the top line or bottom line, or helping to reduce the cost, the automations, the RPAs, and those things you will be putting more and more time and money and efforts and everything there, so that it helps business to reduce the cost. That is the most important things, because the salespeople, the market, the other people will be focused on the revenue side, on the targets and all those things. But the CIO must help the business to retain or reduce the cost. How do you improve the bottom line? How do you get the more value from the existing infrastructure, existing your entire whatever you have, whatever you can provide. So bringing more, like Anil said, okay, the 3 years you don't have any project now more than 3 years or 5 years. Yes, I do agree that you need to focus on that. What is competitors are doing? Where you are there? What are the big vendors are providing with whether it's a data center, whether it's any SaaS, PaaS or IaaS models and all those things. So you need to first thing, you need to keep lights on. The second part is how do you can help the business to grow, give more competitive edge on the by taking the new technologies or new initiative. And the another thing and the important thing will be how you help them to reduce cost day by day by introducing more of automations, more of RPAs coming into it, the more the other things where you can help it. So the role will be completely mixed.
Okay. So thank you, Doctor. Anil, I'd just like to ask you a question on, do you see that there will be a reversal or a trend reversal of journey back from cloud to data centers? Do you see that happening somewhere in the near future? Some of the public, they would probably go to the public cloud and realize maybe I will want to come back to a controlled environment. Do you see that happening, or what are your thoughts?
So based on the current regulation, current business model, the only possibility that I see, Mr. Rao, is that it will be only from one cloud operator to another cloud operator, and or one data center to another data center. And there'll be only two reasons why this will happen. One, obviously, we'll be seeing regulatory changes in data centers where interoperability will become much more easier, as we've seen compatibility in mobiles, mobile numbers, mobile operations, even insurance for that matter, mediclaim insurance. So with more data centers coming in, how to kind of give incentive to new one, government will deregulate or regulate rather in terms of interoperability of data center. Today, if you have to move or say you have to take a journey to any of the three large or four large cloud operators, there are the way that they have set up their own cloud is very specific to them. If you want to go into Azure, there are different journey and work that you need to be doing. The same will not hold good. And I'm saying for specifically for non-standard applications, how Google is structured their cloud is different than how Amazon has structured. So, and if you have to move from one cloud operator to another, it is kind of very almost difficult on closing to, I wouldn't say impossible, but somewhere there in terms of moving from one cloud to another. So to answer you, the journey will not be back from cloud to on-prem. It will be from cloud to another cloud, data center to another data center. And this will have impact by way of regulation and interoperability that will definitely come.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you very much. Punish, I'll come to you. There's a perception that cloud is far cheaper than an on-premise data center. Do you believe that's true? What are your thoughts?
Cloud is not cheaper. Cloud is better, I'll say, in most of the cases. Somewhere, in some cases, it is not also because it's an overkill, but most of the cases, largely it is better. Look, I'll tell you one difference. When you have your own data center, and in manufacturing companies, largely, what will happen is that you will not have a 24/7 support in a data center. You will either 9/6 or 14/6, right? And maybe 14/7 support also, but nights will not be covered. That makes your on-premise a little cheaper, because if you go to cloud, then definitely you are spoiled and you would want 24/7. That will increase the cost of cloud. But the board will not understand this. They'll say, look, your cloud is costlier, so why are you moving towards that? So we can do, and the space that we have already here in our on-premise data center in the factory, the spaces cannot be used for anything else, right? And an energy bill is also included in this. I mean, the total energy of factory, fine. So you are also consuming some energy. So we are okay. Why are you going there? So this happens when you go for a colo or you go for a managed hosting. But when you go to a public cloud, where you have a multi-tenant system and your cost gets divided into multiple tenants, then your cost becomes lower. And then your services, shared services there for support 24/7 even gives you cost advantage. So there are scenarios when cloud is costlier, when there are scenarios where cloud is cheaper. So it is all which model you use and where are you currently.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Punish. Thank you. I really like that. Dr. Mukesh, there seems to be an orientation towards on-premise as well. So if it's on-premise and with the security environment that is prevailing today, where do you see the on-premise? And on-premise is vulnerable, highly vulnerable. How do you secure your on-premise data centers? Because ultimately the ownership of data is yours when it's on-premise, and you're pro on-premise in a way when it comes from a compliance perspective. So what are your thoughts, Doctor, in terms of securing
First,
the environment?
first point, the ownership always remain to the organization. So IT is always a business, your data driven. The organization is always ownership. The ownership remains to organization, whether the data is on cloud, whether data is on a hosted model at a data center, or it is on premises. So the ownership remains always to the organization. It cannot change. This is a ground rule and ground zero rule, and the regulators will also ask questions when something happens and a mishaps happens. So irrespective of the where you are, the data ownership remains in the organization hand. So you are accountable, you are responsible, and you are questionable whenever anything happens. So that is have to have. What you need to do is you need to have proper security infosec policies properly placed. Your entire, irrespective of where it is hosted, you have to have all your EDRs and XDRs and everything in a place. You have to have your basic guidelines of the respective regulators doing them. You have to have a proper infosec team and some couple of external consultants or external parties who do the entire audits, who do the entire activities on time-to-time basis, which ensures that things are in control. There is a saying. Uh, I don't know whether it's you never know when you are going to get caught, but it is eventually it might happen. It might happen. It might happen any day, anytime. They always say the hackers are always you think of today, hackers think of tomorrow. So they are always the one step or one day or 1 week or 1 year ahead of you. So irrespective of where you are hosted, the ownership remains yours. So you have to have your policies tight placed and the regulators according to regulator policies, the audits and the entire your CISO game work has to CISO your framework has to be there in this thing, irrespective of the premises. So so whether it's a cloud, anything, you have to manage entire your show yourself with the help of your infosec team. You have to have proper infosec team. Please. Now regulators have placed in the BFSI particularly, you have to have a dedicated CISO who is going to manage, and there are a lot of guidelines. There are a lot of cybersecurity audits as a part of the regulator reporting. So you have to do yourself own, and this will ensure that the things are properly placed, irrespective of the data where the data is there.
So, Doctor, given a hypothetical situation, the compliance and regulatory guidelines allow us to have the data placed either on-premise or on co-located environment or in cloud. What would be your choice? Would you change your position from on-premise to outsourced, or would you still continue to be on-premise?
Uh, it all depends who's offering what and where is this thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is the economics. It depends. It is the economics which will survive, which will answer this thing. So you're again in the at least in the BFSI, your critical data, your critical applications will continue to mostly on your on premises managed and by your team. Like in the banking, core banking applications, in the financial markets, the core trading applications continues to remain in here, but the customer facing and all those things might move to the data center. So my suggestion will be keep the things control wherever it is. Ultimately at the end of the day, the accountability comes to the organization, comes to the CIO and CISO. So irrespective of data where it is there, it has to be completely properly policies placed for the protection of the data. So that doesn't have the impact on this thing. Coming back to your very crystal question is where I would prefer. I would still prefer if I have a decent team, if I have a good policies and process, the core data continues to remain in our custody, in our premises, and you have a decent team to manage it. And then you have what you can do is you can have outsource your SOC and NOC to the on premises for the managing the entire infrastructure, entire security posture. So that will have a more controlled and that will have a more comfort zone. You will be more in a better comfort zone having hosted at your premises and having a proper quality SOC and NOC team, whether in-house, whether outsourced. So that combination should be there. Again, I keep repeating, we will work on the hybrid workload, hybrid IT. It will be combination of a private cloud, public cloud, hosted model, and the on-premises. So ultimately, you have to manage all these problems and you have to manage the entire game. It cannot be a single rule for a single thing. It has to be, and even in the BFSI, you have a multiple LOBs also. In the financial market, we have the mutual funds, we have the loans, we have the broking, we have the other services. So they have the regulators, different regulators also. So you have to have a mixed mode. It cannot be a single solution for an entire organization.
Sure. Thanks, Doctor. Thank you very much. I think we have had opinions from our friends, the IT leaders, the ones who are going to shape the economy as we go towards $10 trillion economy eventually over the next decade. Thank you very much for your time. And we did have a couple of questions. Maybe, Anisha, do we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions? Have you overshot the time? Or can we have another 3 minutes?
We had overshot the time, but we've got lots of questions, and I would request you to pose them to our panelists. We have a question from Mr. Sanjay Kumar Panda. His question is, with the entry of more secured hybrid cloud, what are the requirements of future on-premise data center? Mr. Rao, could you suggest who could take up this question?
Yeah, Anisha, could you repeat that?
The question is coming in from Mr. Sanjay Kumar Panda. With the entry of more secured hybrid cloud, what are the requirements of future on-premise data centers?
Well, I think, see, at the end of the day, data centers have a responsibility to make sure the data is secure, available, and power any sort of application, be it compliant, non-compliant. And most of the data that is today deployed in the data centers has the power to enable a business. So you talk about any application, you talk about an ERP application, CRM application, or banking application, for example, the online banking application, or otherwise mobile banking applications. Now, all these applications, whether they're hosted on-premise or on cloud, mostly on cloud, are eventually hosted in a data center. What you call as a cloud does not exist. A cloud is an ecosystem which is deployed in a data center. So my belief is that irrespective of what nature of application it is, whether it's cloud or non-cloud, they're all hosted in a data center. And the responsibility of a scale, hyperscale is just a terminology and a phrase or the nomenclature. My belief is that every hyperscale or a non-hyperscale data center has one singular responsibility. And that's making sure that the business runs uninterrupted, right? So keeping it available, making sure the SLAs are met, making sure in case there is a disaster, unfortunately, the business continues. As Dr. Mukesh said yesterday, and as we were talking, that in the future, you're going to have highly available systems. You're going to have resilient systems. I think the RTOs and RPOs will cease to exist. So hyperscale data centers or a non-hyperscale data center, it doesn't matter, but all of them have the same responsibility to make sure that businesses continue uninterrupted.
Right. We have one question for Dr. Mehta. Mr. Deepak Kalamkar is asking, do we go for a traditional data center or cloud for hosting our servers? And what are the benefits of traditional data center versus a cloud?
I mentioned earlier, and it's one of the part of discussion, that it is going to be mixed bag. It cannot be one for one. It is going to be mixed bag based on your applications, based on the regulators, based on the various combinations. So it cannot be a one answer to one solution to all the answers, all the problems. It is, you have to be very selective who is offering what and where, what fits where, and regulators will play a critical role.
Right. We have a question coming in from Anisha Pamnani. Her question is, do you think we should hand over compliance management to specialist team services too? Mr. Gupta, would you like to take this one?
Repeat the question, please.
The question is from Anisha, do you think we should hand over compliance management to specialist teams or services?
Yes, surely compliance is a very specialized subject, so you will need expert views, and it is unlikely you have all these specialists on your payroll all the time. So in a way, it is the right thing to do. It is cost-effective, economical. But as rightly pointed out by Mr. Mukesh Mehta, the responsibility cannot be shifted. If something goes wrong in terms of compliance management or adherences to compliance or adherence to the law, then the agency cannot be held responsible. Instead, the buck will come to you and full ownership has to be taken. And from the perspective of cost management, from the perspective of efficiency management, and even specialized skill sets, which can be brought by these specialists from various consulting firms, because who are, in this world day in and day out, so they can add more value than your own resources who will have to be continuously educated, because compliance is also a subject which is evolving every hour. So with the new thing coming up, GDPR, got domestic data law coming in, meaning a whole new set of lawyers will have to be appointed by every company, which will not be maybe affordable, or you don't require their services every hour. But having them on panel is good, but you cannot shift the buck. That's the point. The buck stops with you. So you do and that is true to any type of outsourcing, not only compliance management.
I would add one thing. The question is, can it be managed by the third party? The compliance cannot be managed by the third party. Your regulators doesn't allow, at least in the BFSI. But you can outsource your services to the third party, like in like cybersecurity audits or the VAPTs or the other parts of the activities. That can be outsourced. That can be done. But the compliance officer, the risk officer, they always remains on your payroll. The compliance team has to be on your payrolls. The question was whether it can be managed by third party. No, it cannot be managed by third party. It can be the services can be outsourced, but by what Piyush said, it has to be done by you. The services can be outsourced.
Right. We have another question that is coming from Dev Datta Rao. The question, Mr. Potter, if you could help answer this question. How secure is our critical data in public cloud infrastructure? Furthermore, having data outside India in different availability zones.
Okay, so I think I sent a chat also, but yeah, just to answer it for everybody's benefit. See, when it comes to security, compliance, regulation, and standards, data center operators and cloud operators are way above than a lot of organizations. Why? Because it's a matter of it's their survival, which depends upon all these standards and regulations. Because it's cost of doing business, they have to be compliant. There is no, how do they get business? How do they lure customers to put their critical information onto their clouds or data centers? So for them, it is a matter of absolute survival and absolute kind of statutory obligation. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. Only thing will matter is that at what cost are you doing it in your on-prem data center? For cloud operators, they have a larger base to amortize that cost because they have that scale. On-prem data centers operators, if you don't have that scale, it's cost prohibitive. So data security, on the face of it, if you have to kind of see, yeah, data centers and cloud operators are secure. And it is always a joint ownership. It's not that you can just pass on the ownership and responsibility to a cloud or a data center operator. No, it is joint because there are certain layers where the customer has absolute control and it is part of customer's covenant to manage that aspect of security. And there are clear demarcated areas where the operator has the ownership and absolute responsibility to manage that. There are always certain subsets where it will be joint ownership. And whenever it is joint, the ball shifts to the customer because it is ultimately the customer data. But on the face of it, yes, all cloud operators and large data center operators, they are as secure as it could be. And on-prem could also be, but it is cost prohibitive.
I just want to add, Anisha, here one-liner only is that, while it is understandable that cloud security is better, the solutions are better there if you compare with on-premise largely. But cloud is also a very attractive target for the threat actors, right? Because for obvious reasons. So the effort that go from threat actors towards breaking the cloud is also large. It's big. So we have to take that into account.
All right. Mr. Rao, there is a question for you, which is coming from Mr. Deepak Gupta. He's asking how to ensure right sizing and components of cloud workloads with complex sizing calculators and how to make sizing and components true pay-per-use.
Thank you, Anisha. Hi, Deepak. Good to have this question from you. See, typically when you're talking about workloads, we're talking about optimizing your infrastructure. So in a physical hardware environment, we suffer from capacity utilization issues. When you're talking about virtual machines, cloud, typically we talk about number of cores, we talk about sizing of your memory, we talk about hard disk size, and of course the backup. So again, this depends on your current application infrastructure. What is your database architecture? What is your transaction size? How many transactions do you encounter in a day? There are certain parameters that you take into account when you size a particular workload or a virtual machine. So, in SAP, you typically talk about SAPs and you talk about there are certain parameters on which you size it. So sizing of workloads is dependent on a couple of things. One is the nature of business, transactions. How much buffer do you want in terms of utilization, in terms of scalability? Is there seasonality of business? And then what is your business continuity need and what is your compliance? Based on that, the workload sizing is typically done in cloud environment. Now, coming back to the second question, in terms of pay-per use, of course, cloud is all about pay-per-use. I think consumption-based usage is now coming to the data centers in a new avatar. But cloud has always been a pay-per-use model, whether it's a SaaS model or infrastructure as a service model, or otherwise a PaaS model. So pay-per-use again is something that you will have to work along with your cloud providers in combination with, of course, the infrastructure and the managed services that you do. But again, that again will be case-to-case basis.
All right. I would like to thank all of you for taking the time. There are a lot more questions that have come in, and I think we should take them to justice to some of these questions. I would request you to go through them a little quickly. Mr. Lamba, Mr. Jaswant Singh Bisht is asking what would be the future of on-premise data centers and the way forward for any new strategies to adopt.
Sure, Anisha. So as I said earlier, we can't make a strategy that everything will go to on-premise or everything will go to cloud or everything will go to edge or colo or managed hosting and all. It depends upon your workload, placement, expected benefits matching with your business drivers. Based on that, we can decide which workload will go where, and then you just take a case-on-case basis. That's the strategy we should follow.
All right. There are a few more questions.
Are we taking some more questions, Anisha?
Actually, there are a lot of questions. We'll take one last question then, which has come in from Mr. Vijay Anand. How can we evaluate or justify the cost ROI on-premises data center versus cloud provider? If any of you can give a thumb rule to go with.
Piyush, would you like to take it?
I think Piyush is not there.
Mr. Piyush is not here.
Let me take this question.
Yeah.
I'll take that, Mr. Rao. So,
Sure.
Mr. Anand, as Punish also said, that there is no real benchmark. Now, what is the quality of that service that you're looking at? With cloud, with a lot of emphasis on equipment, power quality, equipment quality, cooling quality, the premise management, the physical security, the contingency management, whether it is fire, floods, rain, all that stuff. Now, you being operating into a building, which is, say, for example, a multi-story building, having office on some 7th or 8th floor, obviously you'll not get impacted by water, but you are still running. What amount of backup is available? We've seen environmental impacts over a couple of years that we've been seeing, whether it was Chennai flood, whether it was Bombay rains. So these are kind of becoming annual phenomena. Now, if you happen to be operating from such geographies, for you will never look at cost because you're kind of looking at business continuity in that case. So cost evaluation is always subjective based on what circumstances and what objectives you have. If your CA friends in your organization are hard bent of bringing the cost down, they will have all the parameters to tie you down. And then it will be very uh, close to impossible for you to bring in perspective of quality or the agility that it brings in. But on the face of it, if there is an even ground, whether it is quality of compliances, quality of service, and business continuity, then cloud and hosted data center are always cheaper because the scale at which they operate, you will never have that scale. When they buy in bulk. You will never buy in bulk. You will never be accessible to the pricing of what they get. So all things, barring like power will be same. Power obviously it will be expensive. Cooling will be expensive because they're using precision ACs. They have great methodologies to manage the hot and cold aisles, which you will never do, which will have impact on your equipment efficiency also. So, but if you bring in that, so your equipment life will be lower. If you have a large hot aisle in your data center and you're not effectively regulating the air, then it has impact on your equipment as well. You'll have your these all equipment generate huge amount of heat. So put things into perspective. Do an apple to apple comparison.
Yeah, it is still on. It is still on. The panel
So-
is about to end now.
So
You
those
can still
will
join.
have
You can join.
will give you a perspective that
Yeah.
it will always be cheaper on a hosted data center or a cloud. But the premise and base has to be common. Thanks.
All right. I would like to thank all of you for sparing the time. We've gone over, and I'm sorry for keeping you away from your work, but all the delegates have had a very enriching experience hearing your suggestions, your ideas, and all the questions that you have answered for them. A big thank you to all of you for taking the time and coming here for this fun discussion and talking about data centers in our country. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Anisha.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil. Thanks, Punesh. Thank you, Dr. Mukesh.
Stay safe, stay
Thank you.
healthy. Bye. Take care, everybody.
Subject with you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
So we are now going to move on with the poll that we are running. And I'd request Sanjay to please run the poll question so that all of you can participate in this and key in your answers. We will get you the results of the poll soon enough. What's your biggest DC concern? What environment do you get best value for your investment? In this environment, as per you, which DC company offers the best ROI, and how many know about hyperscale DC? So these are the questions in the poll. Do go ahead and key in your answers. And once we have the results, we will play them out so that all of you know what the consensus is. So do participate in this poll since you have been participating with a lot of questions in the fun discussion. Please key in your answers for the poll as well. And we'll get you the results of the poll as soon as we compile all the answers. So now we're going to move on to a fireside chat. Now, people rely on data centers to be up and running 24/7, 365 days a year. And with the emergence of cloud-based technologies, data center infrastructure and uptime has become quite important when it comes to internet-based tools. So as a result, business continuity factors for data centers have become increasingly important, and downtime prevention is even more critical than ever. Now we have a fireside chat with Sanjay Mohapatra, Group Editor, Enterprise IT World, has had with Mr. Amit Luthra, Director and GM Storage Platforms and Solutions, Dell Technologies India. This discussion actually is on business continuity and planning. Mr. Luthra is a sales and marketing professional with expertise in data center technologies like virtualization, cloud storage, compute, and networking platforms. So let's listen in to this fireside chat.
Thanks, Anisa, for introducing Amit. Welcome, Amit, to the fireside chat. Let me just give a very quick introduction of Amit. Amit Luthra, he's the director and general manager for storage platform and solutions, Dell Technologies India. And today he is with me in this platform of Data Center Summit and Awards 2021 for the fireside chat on business continuity and planning. Everybody knows that where the situation is very grim in terms of COVID, but the IT leaders, they have to keep their operations switched on and ensure business continuity and planning. I don't see anybody else other than Amit who can justify, who can give the direction to the industry on the entire subject. Amit, how are you doing so far?
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. First of all, thank you for having me here, and greetings of the day to all the viewers. I would say in these times, God has been kind, doing good.
Excellent. My first question, Amit, is that as a BU leader, what is your observation about people who are working from home? What are the challenges and trends from BCP perspective?
You see, business resilience is becoming a strategic driver for remote working. Sometimes it takes a disaster, to be honest, for senior executives to realize that remote working and employees can be productive in a remote working environment, provided they are engaged when working from home. So, to be honest, remote working will continue even after the pandemic. Primarily, it might be in the hybrid forms. Businesses are investing in technology solutions and strategies to scale up this remote workforce and become future ready. I would say that at Dell Technologies, we are supporting and addressing these challenges with infrastructure, right infrastructure, automation, monitoring tools, network topology, and empowering remote workforce. But for CIOs, the priority should be to establish an advanced IT infrastructure that safeguards not only their businesses, but their partners, their customers, their remote workers from external forces. So they should consider to choose a right blend of right infrastructure framework than and piecemeal approach, and look at a complete suite so that their employees are motivated and are not having that lag when compared to working at their workstations at office versus working at home.
I mean, what is Dell Technologies storage innovation to support the new work environment?
You see, storage has definitely evolved, right? And most organizations are looking for storage infrastructure that can, to be precise, enable scalability, resiliency, and be cloud ready, right? In multi-hypervisor cloud environment or multi-cloud world or in hybrid cloud world. So definitely storage has evolved. It's important organizations adopt a flexible cloud strategy. This means that placing the workload in the best environment with the right security at the right service levels, while empowering their employees or developers or IT teams to drive innovation with a seamless platform that can converge Kubernetes, containers, virtual machines is very important. So at Dell Technologies, again, we have always been at the forefront of bringing innovative solutions, keeping our partners and customers at the center. We have been constantly engaging with our partners and customers to support them and ensure there is no disruption in navigating their businesses to further serve their customers or their societies or their employees or their customer's customer. At the same time, they can move ahead with their digital transformation journey. In short, we have in this storage innovation, we have enabled organizations to accelerate their critical workloads from core to edge to cloud while decreasing their application outages, and help them to get the right scalability, intelligence, and cloud integration. And we have seen that feedback coming from most of the customers that they really like we helping them unlock the true value of their data.
All right, Amit. What practices the CIOs need to adopt, or what piece of advice you have for the CIOs and IT leaders today?
I'll be very honest. Today, most business leaders expect to see integrated teams of humans and machines working together in their organizations. If not in all organizations, but in most of the organizations in 5 years, this would be the trend. In fact, our research forecasts that these emerging technologies and human-machine partnerships will transform our economy. They will definitely remove the age-old friction and help in ways of doing businesses and create value. So, said that IT infrastructure and security solutions matter now the most than ever before, because if digital transformation needs to be made real, IT transformation is the pillar that can make digital transformation real. So as a business leader, as a CIO, it is imperative that one dedicate resources to create a IT plan that is focused on solutions to improve these services to the team, to their clients in a secure manner. It's important to have a strong plan, not just an piecemeal approach. It's important to have a plan that has a framework in place that addresses the needs of users, giving them flexibility, and most importantly, it's an inclusive way. So look at their satisfaction as and when the businesses grow.
All right, Amit, nicely articulated and good advice. Again, coming back to the storage piece, with respect to storage, what are the challenges you foresee for enterprises in next couple of years? I believe that the situation, this COVID or other things are going to grow, and the CIOs and IT leaders are quite cognizant about it. They are on rampage to go in a different mode. So, what are your views on the challenges?
Look, as you rightly said, right, digitization has not only changed the way we live today, but it also has changed the way businesses are done today. We have seen lot many businesses taking a different path in last 2 years, and the amount of data that is coming in the way of the organizations in the next few years is humongous. So it's we can just only imagine that the world around us will look in next 10 years, around 2030, kind of a time frame, with lots of applications, lots of services that have even been thought of. So I believe in one thing, and this is what we at Dell Technologies strongly believe, that data will talk to you if you are willing to listen. So hence, organizations that are leveraging the right data analytics framework, to be more precise, organizations that are leveraging storage infrastructure in a way that they drive insights and use these insights to drive innovation are succeeding in today's world. So it's critical, right? For you to drive innovation, you need to have the right insights, and for you need to have the right insights, you need to have the right infrastructure at place. So some of the key challenges that organizations we foresee are facing or will face in next few years, definitely the data explosion, right? How do they manage the rapid growth of data, and most importantly, with flexibility and easy to manage, right? It's important to not only manage the explosion, it's also important to have a framework that can give them the flexibility to manage this. Second is varied nature of data. Efficiently consolidate a wide range of their workloads, be it file, be it block, be it object, at any scale, while enhancing the performance of most demanding workloads. So it's important that they handle the varied nature of data. Data is no more just what you found in file servers or what you found in databases. It's completely varied today, and Edge is going to really add to this. So third important thing is to have a framework which is having that right pillars of scalability, intelligence, and cloud integration, right? And if any of these are not addressed, organizations are going to face challenges in this frame. And all said and done, if this framework is not resilient, and if this framework is not built up to secure data and secure data from ransomware and secure data in this cyber world, this framework will fall. So it's a mix of having the right framework, else landing in an explosion issue.
All right, Amit, as you know, this event is about recognizing the data center champion. In your opinion, what are some of the best practices which must have or nice to have that would define the DC champions that we are going to honor the leaders today?
You see, definitely must have and nice to have. There is a thin line of difference between what exactly an organization wants to look into it. I would say that the most important tenet would be to understand what is the objective of digitization. If the objective of digitization is to keep your customers happy, go in that path. If the objective of digitization is to go and improve your productivity in your supply chain, or having an objective for digitization is very important. And organizations that have failed adopting this journey are the ones who are not clear with what is end objective. So that's where I say, right, that must have and good to have clearly depend
to have. That would define the DC champions that we are going to honor the leaders today.
You see, definitely must have and nice to have. There is a thin line of difference between what exactly.
6 minutes time left. If I can ask you one more question, which won't be very difficult for you to answer, is that the HCI has changed the entire game of the data center. Now, from on-premise, those people who are migrating to the outsource, again thinking about on-premise. So what is your sense of the data center trade now?
So I would say, as you rightly said, moving from on-premise, going to off-premise, coming to on-premise, this is a journey. Organization will understand, as I rightly said, having the right, it is important to know that where your workload resides, right? If you know that this is my right workload at the right infrastructure at the right cloud, you can solve these issues. So when you just said HCI, I would say that since we have leading solutions, we lead in both HCI and traditional storages. It's not an or story. It's not that HCI is replacing traditional storages. It's always an and story. So we do see organizations having certain workloads that are actually on their traditional storage infrastructure, and they reap benefits with that. We do see organizations having the new age workloads on scale out workload or object kind of an infrastructure, again, on premise, not on HCI. But what we see is that those virtual infrastructure, which is on which in traditional world, people used to buy a couple of servers and storage and try to do this, has definitely moved towards the HCI, because HCI has given them that strength to turn around and be faster to the market. So it will never be a replacement story. It will be coexisting story.
All right, Amit, thank you very much for taking time out and speaking at this very important event of DC Summit and Awards 2021. And I wish you to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you and stay safe. Thanks for having me here once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Mr. Luthra, for sparing the time to speak to us about data centers and what lies in the future. We have coming up next a video from one of the leading data center providers in our country, Control S. That was the video from Control S. Saving the environment is very important along with getting your business done. And that's one message that we've got through from that video. We're now going to move on to the Enterprise IT World's Top 100 DC Champions Award. These awards have been instituted to honor the CIOs and IT leaders for their ability to innovate in data centers, whether it's on-prem or outsourced, to enhance productivity of workers, reduce costs to the company, secure the assets and people from cyber attacks, optimize resources, and become compliant with various global and local regulations. So I would request Sanjay to please play, and we are very happy to award these certificates to the winners. So let's kick off the Data Center Summit and 100 Data Center Champion Awards 2021. The first award, CIO Award, Transformational CIO of the Year Award, goes to Vijendra Singh Rawat, DGM IT, Dharampal Satyapal Limited, GS Group. Heartiest congratulations to him. The next CIO Award, Transformational CIO of the Year Award, goes to Mr. Marakand Sawan, Senior General Manager IT, Deepak Fertilizer and Petrochemicals Corporation, for having successfully managed a transformational journey in data center management. The next CIO award goes to Viren Popadhai Italia, Head IT GSE Bank, for the data center management. And the next award goes to Mr. Deepak Jashnani, CIO Delosa Industries Private Limited, for having successfully managed a transformational journey in data center management. CIO Award, Transformational CIO of the Year Award is given to Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CTO, CISO, Batliwala and Karani Securities India Limited. The Transformational CIO Award has been presented to Umesh Bhapkar, Senior Director IT, Synchron Technologies, for the data center management strategies. The next CIO award is given to Mr. Kamal Mata, CIO CISO Sonic Biochem EXP Limited. Our next Transformational CIO award goes to PhD Mohammed Hamed, CTO Platino Group. The CIO award goes to Mr. Rupjit Chaudhary, Senior Manager IT, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. And the Transformational CIO award goes to Mr. Milind Varvedkar, General Manager, Saraswat Cooperative Bank Limited. The next award goes to Dr. Sushil Kumar Meher, Head Health IT, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. The next award is presented to Mr. Rajiv Khare, Vice President, Global Information Technology, Sigma Electric Manufacturing Corporation. We are happy to present the award to Mr. Venkat Ramana Ratnakaram, Head IT CIO, Aslan SRS India Private Limited. The CIO award is presented to Dr. Vivek Jadhav, Deputy General Manager, VFS Global. Enterprise IT World presents the CIO award to Sandeep Sanyasi, Consultant, Dell Technologies. The next Transformational CIO award goes to Mr. Arvind Kaul, IT Infrastructure and Security Head, Uno Minda Group. Our next winner is Kishore Gojia, Head IT, CIMS Hospital Private Limited. The Transformational CIO award goes to Mr. Anil Kumar KK, Assistant General Manager IT, DTDC Express Limited. The Transformational CIO award goes to Mr. Harbhajan Singh, Founder and CEO, Infotech Computers and Communications, for the transformational journey in data center management. The next award goes to Mr. Girish Verma Jairath, Vice President and Global IT Head, Global Step. Enterprise IT World is happy to present the CIO Award to Mr. Upkar Singh, Director IT FIS Global. The next award goes to Mr. Saroj Pradhan, Head IT Infrastructure, EI Core Technologies Private Limited. The Transformational CIO Award is presented to Sandeep Tiwari, Zonal Head, BSNL. Our next award is presented to Mr. Shailendra Chaudhary, VP and Head IT, InterArc Building Products. The CIO Award is presented to Mr. Anand Chaudhary, General Manager, Merino Industries Limited. We are happy to present the Transformational CIO of the Year Award to Mr. Anil Potter, CIO, Interglobe Technology Quotient. Our next award goes to Mr. Gopalji Gupta, AGM IT, RSPL Limited. The Transformational CIO of the Year Award goes to Mr. Mayank Pachauri, Deputy Manager IT, Head IT, Ayurved Limited. The next award goes to Mr. Manish Kumar Pathak, Head IT and Automation, Sahara Hospital. The Transformational CIO of the Year Award goes to Mr. Vijay Bhaskar, Head IT, Sri Kalahasti Pipes Limited. The CIO Award goes to Mr. Naveen Gill, CTO and CEO, Navharch Private Limited. The CIO Award goes to Mr. Jaswant Singh Bisht, AGM IT and Infrastructure Head, Shahi Exports Private Limited. We are happy to present the CIO Award to Dr. J.S. Sodhi, Group CIO, Amity Education Group. Enterprise IT World is happy to present the CIO Award to Vijay Mishra, Director and IT Business Partner, Capgemini. The next CIO Award is presented to Mr. Arvind Kumar, GM, Head IT, Genesis Group. The next CIO Award is presented to Mr. Ashok Kumar Mohanty, Assistant General Manager IT, Haldiram. We are happy to present the CIO Award to Mohammad Abdul Kalam Azad, Head of Information Security, Eastern Bank Limited. Now we'll move on to the Data Center Summit and 100 Data Center Champion Awards 2021 Outsourced Data Center. The CIO Award for Transformational CIO of the Year goes to Saurabh Das, CIO, Aditya Birla Group, Ethel Mining. The next award goes to Mr. Saurabh Tiwari, CIO, IB Group. Transformational CIO of the Year Award is presented to Mr. Mandar Patkar, Director IT, GIA India Laboratories Private Limited. The Transformational CIO of the Year Award is presented to Mr. Ajay Yadav, Head IT and SAP SBL Limited. The next award is presented to Mr. Lokesh Bishnoi, Additional DRM Operations, Raipur Indian Railways, for managing the transformational journey in data center management through innovative strategies. We are happy to present the Transformational CIO of the Year Award to Mr. Shalabh Garg, CIO and Vice President IT, Religare Enterprises Limited. The next CIO Award is presented to Mr. Ravi Mehrotra, CDO and co-partner, Catalyst Soft Technologies. The next CIO Award is presented to Arvind Kumar Sharma, Head IT, Chamal Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited. Enterprise IT World is happy to present the CIO Award to Mr. Srinivasan Mahalingam, CISO Fusion BPO. The Transformational CIO of the Year Award goes to Mr. Tejas Shah, Deputy Director IT, SPKM. The next award goes to Mr. Udit Pahwa, Head IT, Huhtamaki India Limited, for the transformational journey in data center management through innovative strategies. The next CIO award goes to Mr. Manoj Kumar, Group Head IT, Ray International Group. Enterprise IT World is proud to present the CIO award to Mr. Vishal Jain, Head IT and Infra, Feel Fresh Food. The next CIO award goes to Mr. Hossam Abbas Barakat, Engineer, GM, Egypt Gas. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to Deepa Kalamkar, AVP Infrastructure and CXO, Capex Trade. The next CIO award goes to Saurav Gugdani, Head IT and Security, People Strong Technologies Private Limited. The CIO award goes to Dominic Vijay Kumar, Chief Technology Officer, ART Housing Finance India Limited. Enterprise IT World presents the Transformational CIO of the Year awards to Ganesh Vishwanathan, SVP, PMO and CISO, Head IT and Analytics, Athens Technologies Private Limited. The next CIO award goes to Ashwini Chopra, Director IT, MS Square Media Business Solutions. CIO award is presented to Amit Nerurkar, CIO Shalvi Limited. The next CIO award is given to Biswajit Mohapatra, Partner and Executive Director, IBM, for the transformational journey in data center management. The next CIO award is presented to Ragnesh Mistry, Manager Group IT and Head IT, RPG Enterprises Limited, RPG Group. The CIO award is presented to Bhavna Pachori, Head IT, Azure Power Private Limited. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to Vivek Dharia, CIO, KNP Securities Private Limited. The next award is presented to Praveen Kumar Sharma, CTO and Consultant IT, Vinar Group. The CIO award is presented to Vinay Hariharan, CISO and Vice President IT, CRIF India. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to Anil Kamble, VP Information Technology, Sushil Financial Services Private Limited. The next award is presented to Mr. Anand Ruhela, Head Information Technology, Sikkim Manipal University. The CIO award is presented to Amit Jaukar, CDO and CISO, NKGSP Bank. Enterprise IT World is happy to present the CIO award to Harish N, General Manager, IT Infrastructure, Lind India. The next award goes to Mr. Madhusudan Warrior, Chief Information Officer, NIIF Infrastructure Finance Limited, for the transformational journey in data center management through innovative strategies. The next award is presented to Rohit Singh, Head IT, CISO, Sri Arihant Co-op Bank Limited. The next CIO award goes to Sandesh Govalkar, Vice President, Angel Broking. The Transformational CIO of the Year award goes to Dharmendra C. Gohel, AGM IT, Make Money Organics Limited. The next award is presented to Mr. Sanjay Gharde, CIO and Head IT, JK Papers Limited. Mr. Krishna Dhumal, Deputy Director IT, the Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, is the next winner of the CIO award. And the next award is presented to Mr. Sharad Kumar Agarwal, CDIO, JK Tire. The next recipient of the CIO award is Sanjay Sirsat, Head IT Infrastructure, the Motwane Manufacturing Company. The next CIO award is presented to Dr. Sunil Kumar Pandey, Director IT, ITS Ghaziabad. Enterprise IT World is happy to present CIO award to Priyank Sheth, Head IT CISO, Anand Rathi Group. The next CIO award is presented to Yogendra Singh, Head IT and SAP Barista Coffee Company. The next award goes to Mr. Tejas Kumar, President IT IES Lab Electronics Co. Limited. Enterprise IT World presents the CIO award to Bharat Tank, Associate Director IT and Operations, RIC India Private Limited. The next award is presented to B. Jagdishwaran, DGM, TVS Automobiles. The CIO award is presented to Abhishek Agarwal, Chief General Manager and Head IT Energy Efficiency Services Limited. The next CIO award is presented to Krishnamurthy Rajesh, Head Information Technology, ICRA Limited, a Moody's investor service company. Enterprise IT World presents the next CIO award to Subhi Bhaskaran, Global Manager, Data Center and Cloud TMF Services India Private Limited. Mr. Ramkumar Mohan, CIO Airworks India Engineering Private Limited, is the next winner of the CIO award. The Transformational CIO of the Year award goes to Mr. Manmohan Goyal, Advisor IT Corporate, Tidewater Oil Co. India Limited. The next CIO award is presented to Amit Kapoor, Group IT Application Head, Pristine Group of Companies. The Transformational CIO of the Year award goes to Mr. Vijay Anand, Vice President Global IT and IS, Visionary RCM. Mr. Praful Chavan, Senior IT Manager, Safari Industries Private Limited, is the next winner of the CIO award. The CIO award is presented to Dheeraj Chapla, CIO, Shiv Das and Sons Private Limited. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to P. Sarangi, CIO, DCM Shriram Industries Limited. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to John Varghese, Head IT and Digital Banking, Dhanlakshmi Bank. Enterprise IT World is happy to present the CIO award to Salim Sayed, Joint Vice President IT, TransUnion Civil Limited. The next CIO award is presented to Abhay Bapna, AVP Head, Adani Wilmar. Mr. Tanmay Mukhopadhyay, CEO, Besto Infotech Company, is the proud recipient of the CIO award. Enterprise IT World presents the CIO award to Gaurav Pandey, Director IT, Delivery Private Limited. The CIO award goes to Manish Kaur, CIO, Patanjali Ayurved Limited. The CIO award is presented to Pinkesh Amvat, CIO and Director IT, CRIF India. Mr. Satish Nugu, Chief Technology Officer, KFin Tech, is the proud recipient of the CIO awards presented by Enterprise IT World. The Transformational CIO of the Year award is presented to Lenin Koduru, Chief Technology Officer, Abhibas. The CIO award is presented to Sanjay Narkar, Chief Technology Officer, IDFC Bank. The CIO award is presented to Vinod Kumar KB, Chief Information Officer, Fino Payments. So warm congratulations to all the winners today. We move on next to the Data Center Summit and 100 Data Center Champion Awards 2021. And we are going going to announce the winner. The Emerging Data Center Award is presented to Adani Connect for the promise demonstrated by the company. The Best Hyperscale Data Center Award is presented to Control as Data Centers for building the largest hyperscale footprint as a rated 4 data center in India and for powering mission critical businesses with zero downtime since its inception. The Most Consistent Data Center Award is presented to NTT NetMagic for being the most consistent data center provider in India through the last 2 decades and contributing to the industry and the country's economy. The Most Interconnected Data Center Award is presented to GPX Global Systems for having the most interconnected data centers through the infrastructure and Equinix and holding onto the promise of providing highly connected facilities in India. The Best Mid-Segment Data Center Award is presented to ESDS Software Solutions for building Tier 3 facilities to cater to mid-sized enterprises, government, and large enterprises, and setting a benchmark in Tier 3 data center category. The Most Sustainable Data Center Award is presented to Control S Data Centers for the company's focus on sustainability initiatives aimed at preserving natural resources, reducing air and water pollution, and adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency initiatives. The Best Co-Location Provider Award is presented to STT Global Data Centers for being the flag bearer of quality innovation in co-location services for large, medium, and small enterprises with one of the largest data center facilities in India. The Most Promising Data Center Award is presented to WebWorks for building unique data center facilities in metros as well as secondary cities in India and demonstrating the ability to serve diverse segments of customers across industries. Heartiest congratulations to all the winners today. They all deserve these accolades and many, many more awards and recognitions in the years ahead. Heartiest congratulations to all the winners, and I'm sure your companies are very, very proud of you. Congratulations to all the winners. I think now is a good time for the lucky draw. And we are giving away coupons from Amazon, which are very lucrative. So I would suggest everybody participate in this lucky draw. I would request Sanjay to please go ahead and conduct the draw and then announce the name of the winners. All right, so we have one winner, King Shuk Sen. Congratulations, King Shuk Sen is from Aditya Birla. The next winner is Rushabh Shah. Heartiest congratulations to Rushabh, who's won an Amazon gift voucher. The next winner is Saurabh Sarkar. And the winner of the lucky draw is Navratan Bora. Heartiest congratulations for winning yourself an Amazon voucher. Amruta Bandhu Chaudhary is the next winner for the lucky draw. Congratulations. Mr. Dharmendra Shrikant is the next winner for the lucky draw. And I think we are taking out more names, so lots of lucky winners today. G. Deepak is the next winner of the lucky draw.
Nisa, we are into the last draw.
And the winner of the last lucky draw of the day is Manoj Kumar Sharma, who has won himself an Amazon voucher. Sanjay, thanks for conducting the lucky draw. If you could just also tell the winners on what they should do next and what really they've won in this lucky draw.
So Anisa, we have got 10 lucky draws. They need to, their names have been flashed on the screen. They must be knowing it. And we also from our side, we will communicate with them and send across the gift voucher in the course of time, maybe in a week's time.
And these are Amazon gift vouchers, right?
Yes, Amazon gift voucher of over 2,000 rupees each.
That's amazing. Lucky day for all those lucky winners and all the award winners as well. A great day coming in for many winners today. So it's been a very fruitful day for a lot of people here today. I would now like to request Mr. Sanjeev Mohapatra, Director, Accent Info Media Limited, to please present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anisha. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Anisha. It was a very interesting session today. And I must congratulate all those winners. And I would like to thank everyone because the time is constant, but still we tried our best to do a best of the event. But we have some very good events coming up in India and abroad, which is next event we are planning for United States of America. Then we are planning an event in Middle East and Australia and New Zealand market as well. So with this, I would also like to inform you that CIF 500 is very soon coming up and we will announce the dates very soon. And I would like to thank once again to all the speakers. Once again, so many thanks.
Right. Sanjeev ji, thank you for giving us that vote of thanks and a word of thanks for our sponsors as well who have supported us in this journey.
Thank you, Anisha. Yeah, thank you so much.
Right. We would like to thank everybody who has joined us today in making this virtual summit a success. Heartiest congratulations to all the winners tonight. I'm sure your example will inspire many more of your contemporaries to think out of the box and come up with solutions that are good to use, safe to use, efficient, and workable. So I'm going to wrap it up now. Goodbye and keep the faith.
चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए। जाने मन गुल बदन मेरी बात मानिए, चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए। प्यार चोरी छुपे प्यार कभी होना चाहिए। रुत हो जवान फिर तो हमें होना चाहिए। और चोरी छुपे प्यार कभी होना चाहिए। रुत हो जवान फिर तो हमें होना चाहिए। जय काली कलकत्ते वाली तेरा वचन न जाए खाली। बचा लो अरे बजाओ ताली। चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए। जाने मन गुल बदन मेरी बात मानिए, चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए। प्यार
I'll stop it. The end great. So people who are waiting. Thank you. Go on.
कोई हंसी कर न सका मेरा सामना। मेरी नजर जादू भरी दिल को थामना। और कोई हंसी कर न सका मेरा सामना। मेरी नजर जादू भरी दिल को थामना। जय काली कलकत्ते वाली तेरा वचन न जाए खाली। छोकरी लोग बजाओ ताली। ला 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 ला। चाहिए थोड़ा प्यार चाहिए। जाने मन गुल बदन मेरी बात मानिए। ला 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 la 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 la। कभी सोचता हूँ कि मैं कुछ कहूँ। कभी सोचता हूँ कि मैं चुप रहूं। आदमी जो कहता है, आदमी जो सुनता है, जिंदगी भर वो सदाएं पीछा करती है। आदमी जो कहता है, आदमी जो सुनता है, जिंदगी भर वो सदाएं पीछा करती है। आदमी जो देता है, आदमी जो लेता है, जिंदगी भर वो दुआएं पीछा करती है। कोई भी हो हर ख्वाब तो सच्चा नहीं होता, कोई भी हो हर ख्वाब तो सच्चा नहीं होता। बहुत ज्यादा प्यार भी अच्छा नहीं होता। कभी दामन छुड़ाना हो तो मुश्किल हो। प्यार के रिश्ते टूटे तो, प्यार के रास्ते छूटे तो, रास्ते में फिर वफाएं पीछा करती है। आदमी जो कहता है, आदमी जो सुनता है, जिंदगी भर वो सदाएं पीछा करती है। कभी कभी मन धूप के कारण तरसता है, कभी कभी मन धूप के कारण तरसता है, कभी कभी फिर झूम के सावन बरसता है। पलक झपके यहाँ मौसम बदल जाए, प्यास कभी मिटती नहीं, एक बूंद भी मिलती नहीं, और कभी रिमझिम घटाएं पीछा करती है। आदमी जो कहता है, आदमी जो सुनता है, जिंदगी भर वो सदाएं पीछा करती है। आदमी जो देता है, आदमी जो लेता है, जिंदगी भर वो दुआएं पीछा करती है।
तुम्हारे पड़े वाले चार्जिंग और इन चालीस